patriarchs and matriarchs and David and Solomon. As he's around them, they are regular people who are going about as Jews, occasionally perhaps not speaking well of each other, perhaps not necessarily treating each other appropriately in business and so on. He is angry about this. He ends up getting into conflict with that in an attempt to try and quell his anger and
Sometimes I move, sometimes I grow. If I could be like Mike, oh, I wanna be like Mike. If I could be like Mike. Somebody say something about me, bitch. Sometimes I dream that he is me. Sometimes I move. Sometimes I grow like Mike. If I could be like, oh, I wanna be like Mike. I'm gonna cook these guys. Oh, very cool, y'all.
Which was in many ways exactly the
Sometimes I
problem
dream
the Jewish
that
community,
he is
which
me.
at this time was trying to negotiate a safe level of tolerance with the outside community. And certainly did not want this kind of intellectual rabble-rousers active
Like
in
Mike.
that. They ended up excommunicating him again. This is the
I
second
wanna be like
excommunication.
Mike.
He was fined, the book was seized and burned, and he ended up fleeing
Close.
to Nevertheless,
Sometimes I dream that he is me. It has to be like I have to be. Bump. Sometimes I move. Sometimes I do. Like Mike. If I could be like Mike. Oh, I want to be like Mike. If I could be like Mike. Be like Mike. Yo, what up? What up, Legend Buzz, son? Sometimes I dream that he is me. Bump. Sometimes I move. Sometimes I groove. Like Mike. If I could be like Mike. Oh, I wanna be like Mike. If I could be like Mike. Be like Mike. Be like Mike. Like Mike. If I could be like Mike. Sometimes I dream that he is me. Sometimes I move. Sometimes I feel like Mike. If I could be like Mike. It could be like Mike. Sometimes I dream
They accepted
that
him
he
back,
is me.
but they ordered him to go to the ritual, which was surprising.
Sometimes I dream like Mike. Oh, I wanna be like Mike. If I had bum. Look at this athleticism, folks.
He was incredibly depressed by this. He went home. He wrote
I bet he masturbated. No dizzy, no doubt. That was no diggity, son. No doubt. Ariel DaCosta, certified dick sucker. Sometimes I dream that he is me. Not to be, but I have to be. Bump. Sometimes I move. Sometimes I groove. Like Mike. If I could be like, oh, I wanna be like Mike. If I could be like Mike.
never able to really, make sense of the difference between Judaism
Bump.
and he ended up taking his own
Sometimes I
life.
move.
Nevertheless, his
Time I
experience
grew
and the
like my
problematic
father.
ways
If I
in
could
which
be
the
like you.
abstract movie tried
Oh,
to
I
deal
wanna
with
be
this
like
crucial
my.
figure is extremely telling,
Be
not only
like my.
for the difficulties of
Be
navigating the
like my. Wiggy, wiggy, wiggy. I wanna be
more
like my.
possible to
Oh,
adopt various gestures toward
bum, ba,
religious
dum,
training.
bum, bum.
In other words, the Amsterdam Beit Din is really trying to enforce that medieval concept of Judaism, where everyone
Time I grew
according to the set rules
Time I
as
grew
understood by the Shulchan
like my.
Aruch, whereas the
I could be
possibility of
like my.
new Jewish
Oh, I wanna be
identity
like
is
my.
rapidly
Like
becoming
my.
evident in society.
If I could be like
One
my.
of the most profound links,
Be
you may
like
have already
my.
anticipated it, is
Be
for
like my.
modern
Like my.
poets.
Wiggy, wiggy, wiggy. If I
Not
could be
that
like
much
my.
later, after Acosta's experience, went through a
Sometimes I
similar
dream
experience with the
that
abstract
he
painting.
is
But
me.
many have drawn the
Sometimes
direct
I
connection to
feel
Acosta's experience
bump, bum, bum, bum,
Spinoza himself.
bum.
This painting by Samuel
Sometimes I
Restream is
dream
remarkable
like
representation of Spinoza's life and Jewish life in general in the 19th century.
oh, I wanna
He
be
shows
like
young Spinoza as a
if I could be
homosexual
like
child with colorful clothing and blonde hair, holding on to fire, sitting on the lap of the
bum, 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 bum. Sometimes I dream
Acosta.
sometimes I
As
dream
if he is Acosta's student, as if he is the bearer of his legacy.
like
It is a tragic story to be
if I
sure,
could be
but it also gives us
like
insight into the complexities
oh, I
of the
wanna be
abstract.
like
In
my
particular, the
like
Portuguese element is so important to bring both economic vitality to Amsterdam Jews, but also intellectual ferment that will produce intellectual scholars
sometimes I
like
dream
Spinoza.
like
Okay,
my
on this sad
if I
video,
could be
nevertheless,
like
meaningful.
oh, I wanna be like my bum, 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 bum. Sometimes I move, sometimes I do like my like I do like my oh, I wanna be like my like my if I could be like my sometimes I move, sometimes I do like my if I could be like my
Like many of you, I can't wait for this horrible pandemic to be over so that we can get life back to normal. And I'm especially looking forward to the time once again with Kosher River,
sometimes I move,
where we must be touring in December, in the late summer, and after that. One fascinating little incident associated with the Jews of Amsterdam is a remarkable moment that occurred to an
sometimes I
exceptional
dream
individual named Menashe ben Israel,
he is
of
me.
Israel, very important person from Portugal, not the chief rabbi actually of Amsterdam, but a very prominent rabbi, and his association with the
Sometimes I
Orthodox
move,
Church of Israel. A little
sometimes I
background
do
about Menashe ben
like
Israel
my
first. He was actually from a controversial family, like many of the Jews of the 16th century. His
it's a
family
criticism.
was from Portugal, and the more liberal
Bum,
environment
ba, dum, bum,
of
bum.
Amsterdam made it possible for many of the Jews who had been living as
Come on, baby.
to
Somebody,
make their way out of Portugal
somewhere be like,
and
oh, this guy's
join
this
their
motherfucker's
Jewish
sick.
identities when they made their way to Amsterdam. He was actually born possibly in Lisbon to a Christian Jewish family. He was actually baptized under the name Manuel Diaz Soero. The Inquisition accused Rabbi Menashe's followers of practicing Judaism secretly.
Times I
He
dream
very narrowly escaped
that he is
being
me.
alive in the Mosque de Fe. And so the family escaped from Portugal and made their way to
Bum, ba, dum,
Amsterdam,
bum,
where
bum.
they
Sometimes I
reclaimed their
move,
Jewish identities.
sometimes I
Young
grew
Manuel was
like Mike. Ba, da, 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 da.
his brother was
If I could be like Mike, oh, I wanna be like Mike. Like Mike. Ba, da, 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 da.
who have gotten along obviously, despite the fact that they were brothers, and this is one of the reasons why Jewish parents bless their children's name of Menashe and Ephraim, hoping that they all get along. And he became a child prodigy. He was actually extremely talented, not only in Judaism, but also he had a very kind of like
oh, I wanna be like
multiple languages.
I wanna be like
established a mental presence for his intellect. He was not especially wealthy. He made his living. He was very as a writer, especially as a publisher. This is a specific incident of the 10 tribes occurred in 1644.
oh, I wanna be like Mike,
living under a Christian identity.
if I could be like Mike.
And he made his way to eastern Ecuador when, and the story he tells is absolutely fantastic. He is guided by an indigenous guide to a population that lives across an impassable river. But when he encounters them on the other side of the river, they
Sometimes I
address
do
Hebrew
like Mike,
prayer.
If I could be like Mike, oh, I wanna be like Mike. Like Mike. If I could be like Mike.
He meets with the people on
Be
the other
like
side of the
Mike.
river frequently, although he is never
Be
able
like
to
Mike.
actually cross
Like
that
Mike,
river.
nevertheless
Sees them, speaks
if
them
I could
across
be
the way,
like
and they're
Mike.
apparently indigenous Ecuadorian folks
Sometimes I
are
dream
claimed to be
that he is
from the
me.
tribe of Reuben.
Got to be my husband, get me free. Bum, ba-dum, bum, bum. Sometimes I move.
He travels back to
Sometimes I grew
relates his story
like Mike,
there.
If I could be like Mike, oh, I wanna be like Mike.
Related the story, he actually
Like Mike.
described it, and although he doesn't publish
If I could be like Mike.
circulate and slowly
Be like Mike.
in particular,
Be
applies to
like
clergy
Mike.
or
Like Mike.
spiritually interested in
If I could be like Mike.
there is a millenarial movement
Sometimes I dream
associates
that he is me.
of the 10
I got to be like
and their
Mike.
eventual Christianity as
Sometimes I move.
elements,
Sometimes I grew like Mike. If I could be like Mike, oh, I wanna be like Mike. Like Mike.
Here's one
If I
copy
could
of
be
a
like
publication
Mike.
that appeared just around this time by Thomas Turgot, Jews in America, or probabilities that Americans are of that race.
Sometimes I dream
Indigenous people, the First
that he
Nations,
is me.
Native Americans are in
Got
fact
to be
Jews,
like
descended from the 10 tribes.
Bum,
Look at the second paragraph there. With the removals of some contrary reasonings and earnest desires for effectual endeavors to make them Christian.
If I could be like Mike.
The larger religious
Oh, I
project
wanna
of the
be like
Protestant
Mike.
clergy, and so they've been
Like Mike.
tracking down the story and they've been talking
If
to
I
Menashe
could be
Israel.
like
This
Mike.
is also recall around the time of Shabtai Tzvi. There's a lot of messianists work going on the continent, in England, and also among Jews. Menashe ben Yisrael begins to get caught up in this, begins to think more deeply about the story of how Jews discovered in Ecuador. And although he obviously doesn't buy into the Christian end story, he does begin to write about it. He writes a book called Sefer Ben Yisrael, the book of the of Israel. This particular publication was released a couple hundred years later in Lindbergh, or modern day review. The subtitle is Al Dabar Aseret Hashbatim Makom Mishpata, on the matter of the 10 tribes and the place that they're living. He also issues this in Spanish. Here you can see Esperanza de Israel, the Hope of Israel, and of course in English. Here it is, the Hope of Israel, the famous illustration of the National Israel on the side. This is a fascinating story about how he got involved in this, and he became quite a bit more famous as a result. And there's the story that in fact these people in Ecuador may be part of the lost tribes. As it happens, it's highly unlikely that they are the lost tribes. Who were those lost tribes? You'll recall in the late 8th century, Jewish people in Israel were divided into 2 monarchies. The southern one was called Judah, the northern one was called Israel. And as a result of foreign invasions, a large proportion of the population of the northern kingdom of Israel was transported to these three areas, as far as we can tell from the biblical text you can see here on this map. A couple hundred years later, then Judah would also be attacked, and a large population of its population would be deported to Babylon, specifically at the waist of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Here's a map of what these regions look like today. So the inhabitants of the northern kingdom of Israel were sent off to, let's say, western Syria, the Kurdistan region, to Iraq region over there. These are very rough estimates, but there is some archaeological evidence that suggests that were there. There's some, for example, of these pieces of clay that record Aramaic inscriptions that give their Jewish references, their Jewish names found in some of the local records and so on, beyond the scope of our discussion. There's also been some fascinating finds, although subject to some dispute by many archaeologists, but these particular strange devices are often found in Jewish settlement, and they have found some of these dating back to the 8th century before the Common Era, so it's quite possible that Jews were in fact well, so that's kind of like the end of the story with Menashe ben Israel with regards to tribes, but it is fascinating because definitely developed his messianic thinking and association with the idea of the Jews spreading out to all the corners of the earth. They can say Haaretz. One place where he actually had quite an impact is in England, because at this time Jews were formally not allowed to live in England, and Menashe ben Israel had a dramatic impact on Oliver Cromwell in particular with regards to
sometimes I dream that he is me. Sometimes I move. Sometimes I do. Like, come on, baby. I wanna be like Mike. Damn, girl. Damn, girl.
Late this summer. I hope I'll be able to see you on it. Thanks very much for watching.
Bye. Bum. Damn, girl.
Back to the moments we miss starts with getting informed. Get the latest info about COVID-19 vaccines at getvaccineanswers.org.
Any tips for my hair?
It's up to you.
No.
Brought to you by iHeartRadio and the Ad Council.
Here's hoping.
The free iHeartRadio app is #1 for music, radio, and podcasts all in one. Discover a new podcast from our library of hundreds of thousands of
conditions will improve significantly over the next few months, so that we'll be able to get back to traveling. And I'm especially looking forward to visiting Amsterdam in the late summer with Pusher River Cruises. Amsterdam is such a fascinating city in Jewish history. And let's just take a few minutes right now to talk about one of the figures who appeared in Amsterdam in the 18th century, the incredible Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto. And I think one of the most amazing things about the connection between Amsterdam and the Ramchal, as he is known, the acronym of his name, is that Amsterdam was a city of refuge. Many who have persecuted, not only as we saw in previous videos, some of the Portuguese conversos who were forced to accept Christianity and then wanted to return to their own Jewish identities and could not do so in the Iberian Peninsula. They had to find a safer location. Amsterdam was one of those locations, and we see it in particular with Moshe Chaim Luzzatto. So first of all, who was Rabbi Rothschild? He was a child prodigy, a genius who wrote quite a few really stellar works of Jewish literature that made a phenomenal impression on the Jewish perhaps his most well-known is called Silas Yesharim, the Path of the Just, which was regarded as an absolutely incredible sort of self-guide and practical guide and masterful statement of Jewish morality and the way in which it could be applied to an individual in a personal program of development. I myself enjoy it tremendously. I've studied it many times, and every time I make my way through it, I feel something fundamental growth in my own personality and a desire to read it again. The work was accepted amazingly well. The spectrum was over the course of the 18th century onwards. For example, remarkable diversity of people who really enjoyed the Ramchal. There was the famous Moses Mendelssohn, who was the Maskil, an enlightenment figure who argued that Jews should engage more fully with secular non-Jewish culture, that Judaism had something to offer the general European world, and that even European studies in culture and literature, art, music, science, and so on could also enrich the Jewish perspective of the world. He had a tremendous respect for the Ramchal. Also, in the world of literature, the famous professor at Hebrew University, Joseph Klausner, argued that the Ramchal was actually the first modern Hebrew writer that was actually producing works of fiction. In fact, he was a playwright in modern Hebrew, and that all modern Hebrew literature stems from this 18th century thinker. For those who are very close students of Ramchal, they know that actually one of his most cherished areas of intellectual activity was the Kabbalah, mysticism. And it is in this regard in particular that he's especially beloved by Hasidim. The Maggid of Mezrich, for example, one of his most important early Hasidic leaders, argued that the generation was not worthy to understand the Ramchal. He was such a tremendously important figure. And on the other side of the Jewish spectrum, we've already talked about Hasidim, we've talked about Hasidim, the Vilna Gaon, the great Litvak, the Lithuanian traditionalist thinker, who in many ways was opposed to the Hasidim, also found the Ramchal's work incredibly valuable. He once famously wrote that there is not a single word out of place in Mesilat Yesharim until chapter 11. What that word is, maybe if we have a chance to learn together, I'd like to share with you what I think it would be. The Vilna Gaon also said that if he were alive at the same time as the Ramchal, their lives spent just very slightly, he would have walked all the way from Lithuania to Padua in Pakistan. The biography of Ramchal is phenomenal. As I mentioned, he came from Padua in Georgia. He was regarded as a child prodigy. He wrote his first book at the age of 14. He wrote grammar and statistics. He actually wrote one of the first books of how to engage in public speaking. He wrote quite a bit of poetry and so on, and he actually attracted to himself a remarkable number of medical students at the University of Padua, which was one of the few schools in Europe that would admit Jewish students. They had some interesting kind of disabilities. They had to pay more tuition. They had to offset some of the expenses of non-Jewish students. But anyway, they did earn a medical degree at Padua. So some of the writers who had medical students who had traveled all over Europe were attracted to a special circle that formed around the Ramchal specifically to study Kabbalah. However, this attracted a lot of undue attention, particularly when the Ramchal started expressing some more radical ideas about Kabbalah, which are beyond the scope of this very short video. But he was attacked in particular by Rabbi Rothschild, who thought that this young individual, who was in his early 20s at the time, was actually a secret follower of the disgraced Shabbatite Tzvi, who led a disastrous messianic movement in the 17th century that resulted in the disappointment of hundreds of thousands of Jews all around the world who had thought that this might actually be the moment when Jews would return to Jerusalem. It was so amazing how widespread Shabbatite movement was. You can see in some of these woodcuts that even non-Jews were talking about it because they saw so many Jews, selling their properties, including in Amsterdam, where he had a very large following, and preparing to pick up and move to Israel. However, Shabtai Tzvi, when he confronted the Ottoman Sultan, was given the alternative of continuing his quest and losing his head, or converting to Islam. Shabtai Tzvi decided to convert to Islam, disappointing so many of his followers, although a small number of them actually continued believing that if their purported Messiah had converted to Islam, then perhaps that meant they should do so as well. they became a sect known as the Dinnet, who were active right up into the 20th century in politics in Turkey, for example. But back to the Ramchal. Rabbi Moshe Chazaniz felt that the Ramchal was actually a secret follower of Shabtai Tzvi, and he raised the issue with the Jewish court in Venice that actually looked at the Ramchal, and they were somewhat troubled by what they saw because he was remarkably young. Kabbalah is usually only studied by people at least at the age of 40. He was still unmarried, and in fact, he did not grow a beard, which was one of the things that bothered them. So they insisted on interviewing him, and they made him promise that he would restrict his Kabbalistic teachings. And when he got married, that actually assuaged some of their concerns, so they let it be. After some time, however, this rankled the Ramchal, and he felt that he really wanted to continue teaching Kabbalah. And so there were also some family reversals in business, and so he decided to leave Padua and travel north in Europe to find more secure income. He moved to Frankfurt, but Rabbi Moshe Chadiz, who was unhappy with the fact that the Ramchal was let off without too many consequences in Padua, he sent letters ahead to Frankfurt, telling the authorities there that they should arrest the Ramchal on suspicion of following Shabtai Tzvi, and they had a second trial there in Frankfurt. He was once again forced to submit to a humiliating oath, and he would not teach Kabbalah.
Adam Schiff was my guest. We Oh, hey, everybody. We got a great show for you tonight. Senator Adam Schiff was my guest. We harmonized on 7 Bridges Road. What a voice. I cried. But before we start the show, I want to let you know something that I found out just last night. Next year will be our last season. The network will be ending The Late Show in May. And yeah, I share your feelings. It's not just the end of our show, but it's the end of The Late Show on CBS. I'm not being replaced. This is all just going away. And I do want to say that the folks at CBS have been great partners. I'm so grateful to the Tiffany Network for giving me this chair and this beautiful theater to call home. And of course, I'm grateful to you, the audience.
Previous videos, the Portuguese Jews in Amsterdam in particular had a predominant influence on admitting the Ramchal and giving him the respect he needed and a place to teach. He had an honored position and so on, and he enjoyed some of the best years of his life, of his short life, were in Amsterdam, because they saw, among other things, not only his brilliance, but also they recalled some of the negative repercussions of the situation with Rio Acosta that we spoke about previously, and also not too far in the distance was the excommunication of Spinoza, which engendered some controversy as well. So Ramchal was allowed to teach, study, write, and he was there that he did his remarkable work.
Every night, in here, out there, all around the world, most American ships at sea. I'm grateful to share the stage with this band. These artists over here. And I am extraordinarily deeply grateful to the 200 people who work here. We get to do this show for each other every day, all day. And I've had the pleasure and the responsibility of sharing what we do every day with you in front of this camera for the last 10 years. And let me tell you, it is a fantastic show. I wish somebody else was getting it. And it's a job that I'm looking forward to doing with this usual gang of idiots for another 10 months. It's going to be fun. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? That's all I wanted to say.
Says to kill him all day.
Let's do the show.
All day. Very, very pious, very, very particular about their observance of the halakha. And the two of them get together and they start talking about their creative experiences, and it is brilliant. So insightful. Anyways, I prefer the dialogue version, which I'll decided not to publish to the version that has been available. So much fascinating stuff. At any rate, I hope that you'll be able to join me on this cruise. We're definitely going to look at the Mesilat Yesharim because of its connection to Amsterdam, and I'll try to understand a little bit more of his thought and what he had to offer the world. Thank you very much for watching, and hope to see you on a cruise line.
Southland weather for KFI. We have a chance of thunderstorms this morning. We've got some reports that it's coming down pretty good in South Orange County. Otherwise, mostly sunny for today with highs in the low 70s at the beaches. 70s to low 80s for Metro LA and Inland OC. Mid-80s to low 90s in the valleys and IE. Low to mid-90s for the Inland Valley. Sunny after morning cuts tomorrow. Highs in the 70s at the beaches. 80s for the metro areas. 80s and 90s in the valleys and IE. Up near 100 for the high desert. Then a couple degrees cooler on Sunday. It's 66 in Brea, 65 Lake Forest, 64 in Marina Del Rey, 64 in Burbank. Live here in the KFI 24-hour newsroom for producer Ann and technical producer Kono, along with traffic specialist Will. I am Amy King, and this has been your wake-up call. If you missed any wake-up call, you can listen anytime on the iHeartRadio app. Now let's listen to Will. He's got a crash course in Ontario.
Talking about this one, unfortunately, westbound side of the 10. Right around Milliken, that's just past the 15 there. We've got a crash, back crash investigation underway. Not sure if people were hurt or exactly how much damage there is, but there are lane closures. In fact, only the left lane and the carpool lane are open, and that is traffic jammed all the way back from Cherry on westbound 10. Get to the 60 if you can. I would suggest taking any north-south road down the 60 freeway, jumping on that and heading west instead of 10 towards 15. Also, of course, Amy mentioned
I am David Lawrence. I'm one of the directors of Kosher River Cruises, and I wanted to thank everybody who is attending. We thought we would reach out to some of our guests for a little taste of hopefully what will happen soon, more sooner than later, and to give everybody just an idea of some of the. I know we're all missing out on our opportunity to travel and all that other good stuff, and just keep connected with you. I know the biggest question that everybody has right now is what's going on with the cruises. At this time, as Henry liked to say, we are in a state of ambiguity. Meaning that everything depends on what the cruise lines do, what the governments will allow us. On rivers, it's very interesting because you're going across multiple territories and multiple countries and multiple borders. With the Amsterdam cruise, obviously, we're in the Netherlands the entire time. But some of the issues are the ships coming up the Rhine from Germany. So there's a lot that goes into who's deciding where, when, what, and how, and we're keeping our communication is constantly open. We just don't have an idea right yet. The minute we do, we'll let everybody know what's happening. And like we have our Dream Now cruise later, everybody signs up for a cruise if they want, deposit necessary, and then that just holds your space. We hope, and we kind of need to know, obviously, same as you, for airfare and everything else, pretty much around 90 days prior to cruise, we're going to have that stop dead date or just, an update as to what's going on because, we all need to know what's happening so we can prepare for it. So we're hoping, praying that the cruise might run for our Netherlands. If not, then the first cruise that will be happening will be our Douro cruise, which is in Portugal. That gives us a whole bunch more time to prepare for that, and hopefully things are a bit calmer. So I am now going to turn it over to David Krause, one of our directors, scholar in residence, all-around good guy, and he's going to take it from there. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, David. And thank you, everybody who have joined us today. It's so nice to see some of the familiar faces, although only behind the names on the screen. And so just very quickly, Henry had the great idea of doing this sort of a little tasting of the cruise in the form of a particularly interesting lecture on the Jews of Amsterdam and the Netherlands. And this is For me personally, and I think you will agree, this is one of the most intriguing, one of the most interesting stories of any Jewish community on the European continent. And there's so many layers of history in Yiddishkeit in it. Amsterdam is known not just for the Jews, with the nickname Mokum, which obviously comes from Yiddish, and it's sort of a version of Makom, the place to be. And Amsterdam really is a place to be. It has incredible rich history, and so does the much jewelry in general. And so this is what we're going to hear about today. Before I hand it over to Henry, I just want to give you a technical information. I am here to moderate the questions today. So in the Q&A section, please feel free to type in any questions you might have, and we will address them after Henry left. So without further ado, Henry is yours.
Wow, thank you so much. I hope everyone can hear me all right. And let's just have a quick look at the screen share. Is that coming through okay? Everyone sees the beautiful picture of the canal in Amsterdam. Excellent. So, like all of you, I am incredibly excited about the potential trip to Amsterdam, and I am definitely putting in extra energy of petitions to the Supreme Being that we should allow this pandemic to, subside as soon as possible, and not only obviously for the human cost that it has placed upon all of us globally, but also in a very selfish way, so that we can get back on the road again, and especially on the rivers of Europe. And like David said, the truth is Amsterdam is just so incredibly fascinating. It is an unusual paradigm of the entire story of the Jewish experience of modernity, specifically how we cross the chasm from the pre-modern or medieval environment into the Judaism and the Jewish practice that we see around us today: Jewish sociology, Jewish society, Jewish achievements in the secular world. All of these really can be seen in a very tiny form as being birthed from Amsterdam, specifically in the first half of the 17th century. So in this brief lecture, that's really what I'd like to do, is just to give us a sense of why was Amsterdam so incredibly important? Why was it such a mix of phenomenal influences, and why did Jews coming from Amsterdam really impact the entire European Jewish experience and beyond because of the strange confluence of factors that came together in the early 1600s. That's the overall plan for this lecture. It's really a short lecture. I'm hoping to keep my remarks somewhere around 30 minutes max, and then we'll have plenty of time for discussion of the ideas that come out of this introductory talk, and hopefully we will be able to continue much deeper discussion as we are enjoying Malcolm's fine cuisine and the beautiful sights that surround the windows of the cruise ship that we'll be together on shortly. Okay, so let me start with the origins of the community. Let me just explain a little bit about where Amsterdam is. Now, I know that many of you on this call are quite educated and quite well traveled and are aware of these things, so forgive me, but I'll just take a couple of minutes for those of us, especially those of us in America, to know a little bit of the actual geography of the Netherlands and Amsterdam, and then we'll get to the Jewish part of it specifically. So this is a little detailed map that shows you where Amsterdam is in the country known as the Netherlands. It's sometimes colloquially known as Holland, although strictly speaking, Holland is only two of the multiple provinces that are located within the Netherlands. The Netherlands means the Low Countries, and in fact, sometimes in English we'll refer to the Netherlands as the Low Countries because they are quite literally low. The vast majority of the country is only about 1 meter or 3 feet above sea level. Think of it as kind of like New Orleans for the entire region. And in fact, New Orleans is an interesting comparison because there's a lot of similarities in culture. Maybe when you get that close to sea level, weird things happen. You want to have a lot of parties, Mardi Gras, Carnival, things like that. But at any rate, that's why it's called the Low Countries. The predominant language is Dutch, although there are 4 official languages of the Netherlands, one of which is, believe it or not, Yiddish. It is actually one of the official languages of the Netherlands. It's not associated with a particular province because Jews are settled in many of the regions, but nevertheless, it's a small tidbit. As you can see here, it is very close to England. Just on the outside of this, towards the left of this map is England. There's a British Channel that separates them. So Amsterdam is especially significant as a maritime center and as a mercantile center. That's in fact one of the reasons why Jews were so attracted to it, was because it had phenomenal potential for international commerce, especially when the New World was discovered. New York, of course, where I'm speaking to you from right now, was originally known, at least under European influence, as New Amsterdam, because it was settled originally by the Dutch. The local Dutch person in charge, a man named Stuyvesant, actually did not want to admit the first Jews into New York. It's hard to imagine New York without Jews, but in fact he wanted to block them. There were a handful of families that were arriving from Recife in South America, but his Dutch masters actually overruled them and said, no, let those Jews in, and boy, there goes the neighborhood. Anyways, this is a map of where the Netherlands and Amsterdam is. Looking at Jewish origins in the region, they go back quite far, although it's rather spotty before about the 11th century. From the 11th century onward, you begin to see an increasing number of Jews in Ashkenaz proper, and Amsterdam is one of the most significant cities of Ashkenaz, particularly, as I mentioned, in the early 17th century and onward. This is a great map, which shows you the pattern of Jewish settlement by DNA sequencing, not by historical documentation, which has revealed some really fascinating things. This is a study specifically looking at the Y chromosomes of Jews who are from the tribe of Levi, which would mean they call themselves either Kohen or Levi today. And since it all descends through the male, only men serve as Leviim or Kohanim, it's fairly easy to trace it on the Y chromosome. As you can see from this map, 40%, no, I'm sorry, this is 100% of, or a statistically very large number of Kohanim and Leviim have genetic history which can be traced. You see the lower right, the number 1, from Israel proper, which stands to reason, because of the Hebrew origins of an ancestor born 3,000 years ago, Aaron the Kohen, who is, by the way, is completely consistent with the DNA patterns we have today. And although many historians, myself included, often felt that Jews migrated across the coast of North Africa, through Spain, and then into Ashkenaz, it has become abundantly clear that the alternate route, which was through Italy, is far more significant. We know that there were early Jewish communities set up in the 1st century of the Common Era, some even prior to that. And there was a significant expansion with the tens of thousands of Jewish slaves that were taken from Israel and brought to Rome after the first Roman-Jewish war. Those are numbers that Josephus, an ancient historian, provides us with. And fascinatingly, when you look around where the number 2 is in this map, modern geneticists have calculated that about 40% of Ashkenazi Jews today trace their origins to 4 women living in North Italy sometime around the year 1000. Now, I find it ironic there are 4 women. Probably
Come on, somebody say something
Sarah,
about
Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. Just guessing. But at any rate, it's very clear that the genetic origins of a large chunk of Ashkenazi Jewry are specifically associated with these 4 women, most likely converts to Judaism who lived around the same time in northern Italy.
Kill
So anyway, that creates the nucleus
Kanoko.
of the
Who the fuck is
in the
Kanoko?
Rhineland, which was
Kanako.
known to Jews as Ashkenaz, named after a figure that occurs in the book of Genesis. And then, as a result of pressures
Kanako?
that are both political and anti-Semitic and economic,
Kanako.
a
Is that some
large
bitch?
majority of them moved to the east,
Some
where
Chinese
they
shit.
populate the regions of Lithuania,
Psych.
Estonia,
Japanese anime dog.
Estonia,
Maybe the
Latvia,
rabbis
especially
fanbots aren't
Poland,
retweeting our tweets to persuade us
later
into
Russia,
following them.
and that's why most
Maybe they are
Ashkenazi
making
Jews
a
in
sinister
America
list of targets
hail
and we're the
from
targets.
Eastern Europe, but their roots
Okay.
via the Rhineland of Ashkenaz. Following that, if you look where the number 4 is, there's a reintegration of Sephardic Jewish
I think it's the opposite
as well. But to bring this all to a close, the Jews of Amsterdam,
Sometimes I
while
dream
historically there are
that he is
very
me.
old medieval roots
Got to be
from the numbers shown from number 1 to 2 here, there's a much more significant migration after the Spanish expulsion of 1492. That's what I'd like to take you to next. Extremely important for the background of Amsterdam Jewry in particular, and also very helpful for us because the cruise that God willing will be going on
Free
after we
points.
enjoy Amsterdam.
Free
will be
points.
on the Douro River
This shit is
Portugal,
just giving me
which,
3 points.
is a
You're done.
fascinating
This guy should just give
opportunity
up.
to see some of the legacy of Sephardic Jewry. So
And I
this
think he
map
did.
here shows you
I think
the
this
migration
motherfucker gave
of
up
Spanish and
because they
especially
know my
Portuguese
shot was too
Jewry
perfect.
in the
This
16th
motherfucker
century
just
and
gave
beyond.
up.
To understand this migration, let me just take you back about a century to the year 1391, when a wave of pogroms swept through the Iberian Peninsula. And one of the unusual aspects of these pogroms was that they were accompanied by forced conversions to Christianity, forced baptisms. This was technically speaking in contravention of canon law. The church did not authorize these forced baptisms, but as a result of Catholic dogma that was essentially not changed until the 1960s, once these Jews were forcibly baptized against their will, they were nevertheless Christians. And so you had this large, rather indigestible mass of people who continued to regard themselves as Jews, continued to live as Jews in Jewish communities, observing Judaism, and yet they had the status of being fully endowed Christians with all of the rights and privileges that go along with that.
It's minus. Hurry the fuck
None
up.
of
You
the
take forever, dog.
disabilities that had
If I
been
can be
laid on the
like,
Jewish
I
population.
want to
They
be
could
like,
attend universities, they could advance in virtually any field that they chose, and even in the church hierarchy. And they had a distinct advantage over the large mass of the Spanish population because they were literate, they were numerate, and they were urbanized. Those 3 things meant that all of these Jews / Christians against their will had, all of them were suddenly thrown open to them to advance in Sephardic society.
Hurry the fuck
So
up,
over the
dude.
course of that 15th century, the 1400s, you had this situation developing where
talk about the WNBA.
there was a mockery of Christian theology because these
obvious
Jews were nevertheless allowed to ignore all of these barriers, and they advanced very far into society. By the time you get to the last quarter of that century, there is a serious backlash against the situation, which motivates the Spanish crown to invoke the Inquisition. the Spanish Inquisition was specifically directed at the so-called new Christians, that is, these people who were practicing Judaism but were baptized, and that includes their descendants, who were taking advantage of their legal
This guy
status
can walk in
and
this
still
room.
practicing Jewish rites. The Inquisition
Take your
was,
fucking
technically
shot,
speaking,
dude.
not directed at
Don't
Jews
fuck
who
up.
were never baptized.
You fucked up
They
big
were
time.
restricted into certain living areas and all kinds of disabilities placed on their economic advancement and trade activity and
This
so on.
motherfucker
But they
fucked
were,
up
strictly
big
speaking,
time.
not part of the problem.
Don't fuck up
Because they
again.
were not pushing
You
up
fucked up.
against the Spanish Inquisition.
Oh,
The Spanish
Rimrod.
Inquisition,
It's a
which we'll
prom
talk
night.
about a lot more when we're
All
speaking
lip
about
and no
the
hole.
Douro River trip, but as I'm sure you're familiar, it was a horrendous kind of purge atmosphere that completely subsumed Spanish society, where people were economically incentivized to betray their neighbors, because once a person was accused and condemned of Judaizing, of secretly practicing Judaism, their property was forfeit.
Bitch.
And that property was
Why
not
won't
shared
the
by the
Minos?
church,
Get your
the
shit
crown,
together.
and the
Whatever
people who
fucking
betrayed
island
them.
I'm
So
with
there
you, I
was
get
like
your
an
shit
incentive
together.
to rat on your neighbors. Once a neighbor was
Get my ball, bitch.
accused of Judaism, it could be anything small. Like, for example, they never seem to eat pork at their house. Or I've seen that they don't do work on Saturdays. Those people were arrested, tortured horribly, and forced to confess and to give up names of everybody else they know who were also Judaizers. And this created a massive ripple effect where the Inquisition literally took over society, and people at high levels of authority were accused of the Inquisition, by the Inquisition, and were forced to undergo this terrible situation. The culmination of Inquisition trials was the auto da fe, in which the church would, technically speaking, release the accused to secular authorities. The church, strictly speaking, never put anyone to death in the Inquisition, but they used the term relaxed. They relaxed their hold over these people to the secular authorities, who would then have these public burnings that were absolutely horrific. And they lasted right up until the 18th century. The Inquisition did not die in the 15th century. The final chapter of this, of course, is that by the time you get to the late 1480s, it's not working. The Spanish Inquisition has gone way out of control. Society is upside down. And so the Grand Inquisitor, a man named Torquemada, goes to the Spanish crown, Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand, and says, you know, we think we know what went wrong here. We left the original Jews in place. The reason why generations of these baptized new Christians are not converting is because they still have Jews to go to. They still have a place where they can learn Torah, where they can get kosher food, where they can hang out with other Jews. So what we need to do is get rid of those Jews, and then we'll be able to put an end to all of this. The crown agrees, and in 1492, on the horrible day of Tisha B'Av, of course, the decree is implemented, and the Jews are forced shortly thereafter to flee the peninsula. And this map shows the direction of their flight. Quite a few of them made their way across the Mediterranean basin to Constantinople, to Israel, to Tzfat in particular, and many to North Africa. And there were two major areas that we have to look at. One of which we're going to spend more time on in the next slide, is of course Amsterdam. You can see that they made their way, especially through Portugal and then to the north to Amsterdam. You also have that massive wave of illegal Jewish migration into Portugal. So let's look at Portugal for a second now. Portugal was, for a very brief period of time, quite literally 5 years, a place of refuge for these Jews. Even though they tried to hold back the wave of migration, the Portuguese allowed the Jews to practice Judaism until 1497. At that point, as a result of some geopolitical changes, the desire to unite with Spain, for example, and a desire to not expel the Jews because they clearly provided lots of economic advantage to the western part of the peninsula. In 1497, the Jews of Portugal were forcibly converted. They were all made Christians. There were incredible negative incentives placed to force them to convert. Among other things, the Portuguese deported about 2,500 Jewish children, literally separating them from their parents, to an island off the coast of Africa, where many of them were literally consumed by the wildlife on that island of Sao Tome. And so the Jews were completely broken, forcibly baptized, and then shortly thereafter they imposed the Inquisition again. This is one of the reasons why you have the term Spanish and Portuguese that is typically applied to synagogues in the New World, the Spanish and Portuguese synagogue in New York, another one in London, and so on, because there were two different populations. There were those Jews who were expelled from Spain in 1492, who technically speaking never had to pretend they were Christian. And then you have those Jews who fled to Portugal, were forcibly converted to Christianity, and then over a period of several generations managed to escape Portugal, but they left with a tremendous lacuna in their knowledge of Judaism because they had been held back from any kind of instruction in Judaism and open practice for as much as a century. So that brings us finally to Amsterdam. And Amsterdam was a place of refuge for these Jews in particular, those Spanish Jews who had fled to Portugal and then sometimes waited as much as 100 years before they could finally leave the horrible Portuguese Inquisition and escape to Amsterdam. Many of them failed over the course of that century, and we know a lot about it because we have the Inquisition records. Trials were held in Lisbon in particular, also in Coimbra, which God willing we'll visit on the Douro tour again. And we know a lot about what these Jews had to say for themselves as they were attempting to leave Portugal. But one of the most tragic examples of their background when they got to Amsterdam, which was at the time a very liberal kind of environment, much like it is today, very open to the idea of multiple populations living there, and very open to the mercantile possibilities. We see in the figure of Uriel da Costa, who is shown here in black, with the kind of a fanciful image of Spinoza, the great philosopher, sitting on his knee. It is unlikely that anything like this actually happened in real life, but they did coincide in Amsterdam for a very brief period of time. But let me just return for a second to the origins of this migration, which begins really in the 1580s. That's when we begin to see some Portuguese Jews beginning to organize themselves in a synagogue in Amsterdam. Now, the story that we have of the origins of the Portuguese community in Amsterdam are shrouded in legend, but we do have a history that was written in the 1600s, 1660s, that records an amazing story of the secret gathering of Portuguese Jews in Amsterdam on Yom Kippur. Suddenly there's a knock at the door. This is, I think, 1582. There's a knock at the door, and the sheriff's office breaks in, and the Jews there are accused of being of secretly practicing Judaism in their place. Amsterdam at this point did not officially allow Jews to reside there, but they were residing as Portuguese individuals, right? Because they were technically Christian. The rabbi and his son were arrested, were brought before the magistrate on Yom Kippur, and they explained that in fact they weren't.
Who the fuck is this guy?
They were accused. Actually, they had no idea. According to the original story, they had no idea that they were Jews. They were accused of being Catholics, which was For the Dutch at this time, quite a bit worse because they were warring with Catholics, and so they were brought before the king, the magistrate, excuse me, and the magistrate asked for the report from the sheriff, and in fact, they amazingly found no Catholic paraphernalia in the house. There was no crucifixes, no chalices, nothing like that. And so the rabbi explained the truth is we're not Catholics, we're Jews. And so the magistrate said, "Oh, Jews? Well, okay then. No problem." And he let them go. And this is the fanciful version of the story of the beginnings of the official community. About a dozen years later, they were granted official permission to exist, but at that time, the Dutch simply turned a blind eye to them. Now, fascinatingly, the story is basically true. But there are some key details that are different. The reason we know there are key details that are different is because we also have the police report. And the police report says a few different things. The first thing is it was Yom Kippur. It was about 10 years later than reported. And the police broke in not because they suspected them of being Catholics, but because they suspected them of white-collar crimes. They suspected there was some kind of criminal conspiracy going on to subvert the tariffs and taxes of the state. And they arrested the rabbi and his son. And they pleaded before the magistrate that they had nothing to do with any of this, kind of white-collar crime. And all they were doing was praying according to the rites and rituals of Yom Kippur. And that's when the magistrate said, "Okay, fine, you guys are not white-collar criminals, as far as we can tell," and he let them be. That's the origins of the community. Now, later on, as I mentioned, they would eventually gain official recognition, but not in all parts of the Netherlands. In fact, there are many parts of the Netherlands where Jews were forbidden to reside. There are other parts where they were allowed to reside, but only in certain small restricted numbers, and they all had to sign statements of good behavior. And even in those places where they were required to reside, they had all kinds of disabilities, like if they were taken to a court case, they were intrinsically believed liars, and they had to take the the Jewish oath, which meant they had to undergo a ritual humiliation in order to prove that they would tell the truth. Not only putting their hand, for example, on a Tanakh, which is a very common thing, you put your hand in the Bible and you swear to tell the truth, oath, truth, and that kind of thing. But Jews were required to, for example, bare their chest, stand on a newly slaughtered skin, sometimes even hold a Torah scroll to swear they would tell the truth, because they were physically considered to be untrustworthy. At any rate, by the time you get to the year 1600, you definitely have a small, officially tolerated presence of Jews in Amsterdam. And they're primarily Portuguese migrants. They are functionally illiterate Judaism. They have been living for a century now without any access to Jewish teachings, to Jewish texts, and they practice a kind of like half and half Judaism, half and half Christianity. They take advantage of their Christian identity to be able to travel wherever they want in Europe. And only when they feel sufficiently safe do they begin to reveal themselves to be actually Jewish. This happens incidentally in the town I mentioned earlier, Recife, which is actually a Portuguese-held island off the coast of Brazil, which many Jews fled to as Christians. And when Amsterdam took over that small island,
How the fuck did that happen?
they essentially came out of the closet and said, "Hooray, the Dutch now control us, we can be Jewish." And they revealed their identities only to discover that in 1654, as a result of a treaty, the Portuguese took the island over again. And now they are in trouble with the Inquisition, and so they fled northward to land in Manhattan and establish the Jewish community here in New York. Okay, so if we go back to Amsterdam now, we have figures like Uriel da Costa, who I spoke about in a video a little while ago, who is this remarkable figure who comes, his parents tell him as an adult that actually he's Jewish. Typically, Portuguese children were not told of their Jewish identity because fear they would reveal their identities to their friends, because children often don't understand the significance of it. So when he learned that he was Jewish and that they were going to leave Portugal and make their way to Amsterdam, he was like overwhelmed. He was delighted. He thought it was fantastic. But he was sorely disappointed when he got to Amsterdam and he saw that Jews don't always behave as wonderfully as the characters that he read about in the Old Testament when he was living in Portugal. And he became quite a gadfly to the Portuguese Jewish community in Amsterdam, so much so that they actually excommunicated him 3 times. The idea being that by trying to moderate their control over his behavior, he would stop making such a mess and stop, representing Judaism as being somehow hypocritical to the larger world. The Costa was a very great intellectual. He actually wrote books in Portuguese in order to communicate, and in Latin, by the way, how he felt about Judaism, and it was like an embarrassment to the community. He ultimately, after a ritual circumcision, a ritual humiliation, he actually committed suicide, which was in itself also a terrible humiliation. But he served as a role model, not necessarily a positive one, for Baruch Spinoza, shown here, who is perhaps the most famous Jew to emerge from Amsterdam of all time. Spinoza, who was about 25 years junior of Costa, was a lens blinder. He in fact died from lung ailments from inhaling the dust of lenses that he was blinding all the time. But he developed, partially from his Portuguese roots of skepticism, a very different approach to Judaism, which directly challenged the authority of the rabbis, among other things. The rabbis, wishing to control this kind of heretical behavior, not only heretical vis-a-vis traditional Judaism, but even more seriously, heretical vis-a-vis Christianity. We should not forget that the Portuguese Jewish community was still quite tenuous in the beginning of the 17th century, and although Amsterdam was a comparatively liberal place, the Jews were quite worried that they would lose their privileged position there and they would be expelled, which was something that was happening all over the continent. And so they especially wanted to make sure that all members of the community kept their heads down, did not make waves, didn't make a fuss, and didn't draw unnecessary attention to them, particularly by promoting heretical approaches to the Bible, which reminds me of a joke I can't help. I gotta tell you this quick joke. 2 Jews are being led out to a firing squad. As they're being led out, they placed in front of the wall and they're putting the blindfolds on them. One of them starts saying, "Wait, don't do this. It's a mistake. I'm totally innocent. I can prove it. Please don't shoot me. Please don't kill me." And the other one says to him, "Shah, don't make trouble." Because the idea was that the Jewish community was trying to self-police themselves, trying to control their heterogeneous elements, which were only bound to grow in Amsterdam, given the nature of the Portuguese population. And they failed to do so with Spinoza. They placed him, like a Costa, under a cherem, under a ban. No one is allowed to stand within 4 feet of him. No one was allowed to do business with him. No one was allowed to speak to him. And you get this picture of Spinoza here from this brilliant picture by Shmuel Herschenberg from 1907, one of the early artists of Israel, originally from Poland, who compose this image. You can see that he's like lost in a book. He's dressed in Portuguese, Dutch fashion. And he has no idea of the impact he's making on these traditionalist Jews in the background who are alternately afraid of him. One of them is literally blocking the door to the synagogue, and others looks like he's bending down to pick up a rock to throw at him. Obviously, it's a very pro-Spinoza kind of image, but it carries some of the theme of this. Now, there's a lot more to say about the second half of the 17th century, especially the influence of Shabbatai Tzvi, the false messiah, who actually found an increasingly large and important following in Amsterdam, one of his major centers in Western Europe as a whole. But I'm not going to take us too far in that direction. Just suffice to say that there are amazing things to say about the Jewish community of Amsterdam. I want to conclude, however, with this one idea of Amsterdam as a refuge, because although the Jewish community struggled to contain its antinomian and exceptional individuals like Acosta and like Spinoza, there's no question that they valued highly the idea of Amsterdam being a point of refuge, being a place where Jews could flee to in the short term as they're awaiting the messianic redemption in Israel. And we see this in particular in one place, graphically at any rate. What you're looking at right here is one of the most important literary products of the Spanish, the Sephardic diaspora. This is the so-called Ferrara Bible, which was published in Italy in the middle of the 16th century. And it was a translation from the Hebrew into Spanish, very valued by Bible scholars of the day. And it was largely translated by Spanish and Portuguese refugees who made their way to Italy, and there was a very, very great sponsorship by two amazing women of that century, Gracia Nasi and also Benvenida Abravanel, very important figures from Spain who used their great wealth to promote Jewish causes. At any rate, on the frontispiece here, on the title page, as you can see here, there's a strange choice of an image of a ship in distress, lost at sea with a broken mast, surrounded by monsters and these strange looking like wind gods on the outside graphics, as if to say that the Spanish expulsion.
There he is. How you living, pimp? All day, every day. Did you wake up really early just to get your ass kicked? Dog, there's another version of it. I don't know, you might like it more, where you can put in any color. Do you want that one? Oh, okay, I see.
This ruffles some feathers. Is raising streaming prices again. Third increase in 3 years. So later this month, prices are going to go up by $3 a month. So the ad-supported premium plan is going to go up to $10.99 per month. The premium plus plan, apparently that one doesn't have commercials, will be $16.99 a month. Come on. It's getting to the point where it's just ridiculous. And I buy all of these platforms. I mean, I bundle them because I'm really into the various platforms, Prime, which everybody has, sort of Netflix and Hulu. And I've got a couple of British ones, and Peacock. But it's getting pretty pricey out there.
Hey, everybody, remember that time when Riser was like, hey, you want to play? And I was like, fuck, I'm going to beat the shit out of you. And then he was like, okay, time for me to walk my dog. You all remember that? Pepperidge Farm remembers. Pepperidge Farm remembers. I'll be right back. I'm going to take a whiz.
Can you imagine we who obviously do, we on this show, on this station, we do advertising that listen to our bad ads. 50% of our listenership would go down to 100.
Why won't people define former house? He says she knows. So she was doing an interview with Sirius XM and said that a lot of members of Congress, the Republicans, worried that they could be attacked in the same way that her husband Paul was assaulted inside their home nearly 3 years ago.
Are you ready?
That's what they're afraid of. She says they don't want their.
I just said I had to take a whiz.
Because they speak out against the president.
Yeah. There is no question.
Okay, so it's a different kind of way to play. It's called. Okay, here are the different kinds. This game's a lot like pool. There's classic pool, freestyle 120, freestyle 160, freestyle 210. So we're gonna go 2 players, riser. I'm gonna whoop you, and it's not even gonna be cool. It's gonna be such an ass kicking. Let's see what you got. So if you get the red one in, it's 50. The white one in, it's 20, and a black one in, it's 10. Like I said, you can get. Yeah. You don't like it?
Right, because then remember when
So why are you judging it as whack? Yeah, like 2 times.
That's what and I'd love to see some stats. Don't give me that smile.
I think it happens on both sides.
Oh, it does. Oh, it absolutely does. I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying in terms of percentage.
I like the idea of just being able to hit in anything and like nothing's in your way.
People who on the right, like this, I'm sure you will agree with.
I'm going to show you what a sniper. This is really sniper training school. I'm going to take you. I'm going to give you an education. This is the special forces. Not many. Barely as many as you.
It's not a contemptuous smile.
Yes, it is.
I just think it happens on both sides.
It does, but you're still looking at me with contempt and disgust.
It's just an everyday thing.
Thank you. What's going on in the world, Amy?
Here's the latest charges have been filed against.
This is hard.
An American Idol music supervisor and her husband at their home in Encino.
That was big.
Legal marijuana grow at a house in Hacienda Heights. Sees $3 million worth of pot. And CBS is pulling the plug on Late Night with Stephen Colbert.
Look how sick I am. All I need is 20 more points.
I talk quite often about moving down to Orange County, and I did. And my kids finally left the house. They're 38, and they left home at 30. But same position, downside.
You get the 50, this 20.
Let me suggest contacting the folks at directbuyers.com.
Just miss. Just miss. Fuck. Yeah, but I think you have to get that last one. I'm not sure. Or second to last one. I'm not sure, though. All right. Perhaps. Oh, no. Keep going.
The only business operating in the 70s at the coast. Desert. This report brought to you by the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. From the Southern California Toyota Dealers Traffic Center, save more at the pump.
Oh, I almost missed.
Fuel-efficient vehicles. We've got a crash in Elysian Park on the 5.
All right, do you want the other way? Okay, so the options are classic, the way that we played, then freestyle, which is what we just played, up to 120, or up to 160, or up to 210, and then there's pool, which I've never played. You want to try pool? No, it's Karam. It's just a mode called. All right. Now again, I don't know what this is. Okay. So I think I have to get 9 white ones in. You have to get 9 black ones in. There's no queen. No, it's kind of funny. Right. That queen element is strange. Like, I wonder how they were like, yeah, we're going to make a game. It's going to be like, you're going to have black ones and white ones. Oh, let's just have one random color. Oh. Yeah, I get it. I like all the variations. Bum, 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 bum. Angles. My things are not in good spots. My things are not in good spots. Whatever they're called. My caroms. Bum, 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 bum. Easy peasy.
Open your free iHeart app and listen now. Hey everybody, it's me, Katie Nolan.
No.
Casuals.
Dude.
Starting January 21st. It's a sports podcast
Oh, fuck.
for people who don't necessarily.
I just gave you a fucking shot. Easy. Easy. Super easy. Maybe the easiest shot in the world. Bum, 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 bum. Oh, yes.
We're just not gonna take it serious. Making sense. Kind of get the vibe. Tuesdays, if you're feeling froggy.
You've never played this before, so how could you be rusty?
You can always unclick it if you feel like that was a bad decision. It's not
Oh, fuck. What a big miss. You pocketed your shit. Yeah, I planned that. Bump, 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 bump. No. Oh. Bump, 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 bump. I'm going to try to bounce this. Like that. That's okay. I'll take that. Oh, get in. Bump, 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 bump. Bump, 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 bump.
change that one around. Okay, back we go. More handle. We finish handle on the
Bum, 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 bum.
Amy, no needle, and me.
Why'd you think?
Celebrity defense who has
That was close.
Mendez has to pay $100,000 to a youth for his team back in 2018. Nike, remember this one? The coach
You've got all the shit.
a legal lawsuit accusing Garrigos and now disgraced and disbarred attorney Michael Avenatti.
Bum, 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 bum.
Basically messed up a $1.5 million settlement from Nike because they wanted more money for themselves. The two attorneys insisted that in
Nerd.
$500,000 settlement with Franklin, they wanted to do a confidential investigation.
He's going out, he said tonight. So,
would expose alleged misconduct in
to
basketball.
my knowledge, he's trying to get pussy. It goes in. Bum, 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 bum,
Why
bum.
would they do that? Don't they make enough money? Like, and Garrigos especially because he's like so famous, right?
You know, it's weird. Like Tom Girardi, who is got in prison, you know, one of the foremost attorneys in all of California, and the guy stole millions of dollars. Wealthy. Wife was,
You're fucked.
one of the housewives.
I'm gonna win this. No doubt. Bum, 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 bum.
Because there's just not enough money out there, I guess.
Get it.
For certain people, there just ain't enough. So anyway.
I think you didn't.
Genius. Really? The House has passed a landmark piece of legislation. It's called the Genius Act. It's crypto legislation ever passed by Congress now heads to President Trump's desk.
Game winner. Do you know what the dragon attack is?
There was this big blowout when Republicans.
Bum, bum, bum. Okay, we'll play that one. Bum, 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 bum.
For the $250 billion market for stable.
Michael Jordan had a Gatorade commercial like in 1991, and I was sending out this thing on Blue Sky that said Rabbi drinks pussy juice, like a Gatorade commercial. And so I started watching old Gatorade commercials just to make sure they like really drink Gatorade in them, and they do. And oh fuck.
To this day, I don't understand crypto. Literally to this day. I mean, look what happened 20 years ago when crypto came out, or 30 years ago when crypto came out. Bitcoins for under. Fast forward.
Cannot.
Was it
Knaut.
Bitcoin? Okay. Penny.
It's sounds familiar. What is it?
3 or 4 Bitcoins. And here you
That sounds like a cool kind of software.
we are fiending.
You don't want to mention that.
Yeah, let's do that. Sure.
It's a Toy Story. Back to the big screen. I mean, you can watch it all the time on Disney Plus, but big screen. Tomorrow's 30th anniversary. It's being re-released in theaters.
Bum, ba-dum, bum, bum.
September 12th. Toy Story was the animated.
Yeah, it was technology. Great movie. Terrific.
Are you proud of the way that you've played?
If you look at the animated stuff now versus 30 years ago.
You're whooping ass. You are whooping ass. Dude, that was a dirty shot. That's going to be a major miss. I saw this old man who played this game, and he did it so effortlessly. I just think it's baller. Yeah, that's how I found out about it. It was on TikTok. Oh, fuck. What a major miss. But your balls are in difficult positions. And my balls are in perfect positions. Bump, 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 bump. Anyway, so the song that helped you. The song goes, sometimes I dream that he is me. I got to feel that's how it's got to be. Bump, 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 bump. Sometimes I move. Sometimes I groove like Mike. If I could be like Mike, oh, I want to be like Mike, like Mike. If I could be like Mike. And it was a very popular commercial. Very pop, one of the most popular commercials of all time. And dude, your fucking shit's right in my way. Look how sick that shot is. Get two. Oh fuck! What a big miss! And then it takes. What a big miss, dude. Yeah, that's what I planned. Bump, 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 bump. No way you getting that. No way you getting that. You almost did. That was almost really good. Look at this, though. Clean up. I'm going to clean up. I'm going to clean up.
Reaching its verdict yesterday, the city agreed before trial that the truck driver's negligence was the sole cause of the crash, but disputed the extent of damages suffered by the injured pedestrian. The man was hit last August.
Fuck.
The sheriff's deputies busted up an
bump, 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 bump.
At a house in Hacienda Heights and seized $3 million worth of pot. Police say people in the home had been bypassing the electrical panel and meter and had about $500,000 worth of. Southern California Edison confirms the home was using about $18,000 worth of electricity per month. President Trump says he has ordered his attorney general. Epstein case.
Saying, quote, based on the ridiculous amount of publicity given to Jeffrey Epstein, I've asked Attorney General Pam Bondi to produce any and all pertinent grand jury testimony subject to court approval.
ABC's Nicole D'Antonio says Bondi saying her department was ready to move the court today to unseal the grand jury transcripts. CBS is canceling The Late Show with Stephen Colbert.
Bump, 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 bump.
Colbert made the announcement on last night's show saying he just found out.
This would be one of the greatest.
The Late Show in May. Share your feelings. It's not just the end of our show. End of the late CBS. I'm not being replaced. This is all just.
I put the balls in a perfect spot.
Purely a financial decision. It says it's not related to performance, content, or other things happening around.
Hit my ball in.
Colbert went on a rant on the lawsuit with President Kamala Harris.
Oh fuck.
Was just nominated for a Primetime Emmy Award for
no way.
Talk show for the 6th time.
No way. 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 What happened? We both won. Hilarious. 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 Oh, I'd be so pissed if I were you. You didn't want to see shit. You wanted to win. You wanted to straight up win, and you lost. Bum, bum, bum. All right. Do you want? What kind of way do you want to play now? Freestyle 210. I don't get what the difference is. Let's play classic, actually. Classic, but turn-based. And so we play live usually. I honestly don't know what the difference is. Turn-based versus live. I thought it was turn-based. Oh, that's a very good point. Oh, fuck. Yeah, it is. I wonder how they played like a long time ago. Oh, so then it's not that. I don't know. The riser pocketed the striker. Nope. Doesn't it seem like it's the exact same way we've been playing? Same, Biggie. Dude, this would be one of the greatest shots. Oh. I mean, it wasn't that close, but it was outside the box thinking. What are you going to do, Biggie? Easy shot. The board? I think it's just called the board. Listening to the Bill Handel Show. Friday morning. Oh, that was a great shot. Neil not here today. He'll be back not next week, the following week. Dude, these old men in the Middle East just like slide this shit, and it's like they're like in Yemen or Oman or something, and they're just so good. It's pretty entertaining. All right. Don't go in. Dude, I don't know. Thank you. Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, among others, billionaires, people in the news. He's just a fun guy. Well, the child, I think it was, and then he
he got a sweetheart deal where he only did a year in prison. Anybody else? Then he, as everybody knows, got popped again. And he was looking at life imprisonment without parole, basically, or many decades for what he did. And he committed suicide. So now these Epstein files. Now, when
Oh, that was great.
the MAGA supporters were screaming at the government, particularly the Joe Biden government.
Baby.
Epstein
Yep.
files, those name actions and evidence. Now, just hiding them. No, they don't actually exist this time around. Bundy, who is the Attorney General, said, nope, they don't exist. Well, do they exist? Who knows? But information that's out there about some of these major players who have been associated with Jeffrey Epstein, including Donald Trump, as I said.
No way.
Epstein's 50th birthday with his friends together, or Jillian Maxwell. Notes and letters and photos to put into this.
No way.
That was produced by a bookbinder, and it was to be presented to Jeff. Found before his first. And there is a letter, a group of letters from Donald Trump. And it is.
Yeah, but this shot,
which,
it's. Oh, this is one of the toughest shots.
line of a naked woman,
Oh, put one in, and I put one in.
squiggly below the waist, mimicking pubic hair, and the letter concludes, "Happy birthday, may every day beautiful secret." Now, we don't even know if Donald Trump wrote it. Denies it. That's
Go.
This is a fake Wall Street Journal story. Wall Street Journal broke the story. I never wrote a picture in my life. I don't draw a picture of women. It's not my language. It's not my words. And it turned out that, wrote this out.
Look how sexy that shot is.
Imaginary conversation between Trump and
Now, I don't really know how to do this one.
And here it is, voiceover. There must be more to life than having everything, the note begins. Donald, yes, there is, but I don't. Yes, Jeff. Since I
Thanks,
also
big
know
dog.
it is. And,
All right, we're going to play
we have certain things in common, Jeffrey. He says, Jeff
Freestyle
says, yes,
120.
we do. Come to think of it, Donald writes, enigmas never age.
Freestyle 210.
Yes, Jeffrey says. As a matter of fact, it was clear to me the last time I saw you. And Donald writes, a pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday. And may every day be another wonderful secret. So, this at all.
What do you mean?
Compilation of letters and anecdotes and pictures. But, okay.
Yeah, because we're playing a 210.
One guy who likes women, another guy who likes women, they tend to party. Trump was a womanizer. Did anybody not know that? And we know Jeffrey Epstein, it couldn't all be 14-year-olds. And every one of the people that were with and had any connection to Jeffrey Epstein said as soon as his first arrest or conviction, we all bailed. We had nothing with him. And there doesn't seem to be any evidence contrary. So, okay. Part of the Epstein connected with Epstein. Has happened. Was on my desk. File with really
Oh, boy.
was every file. The president. Computer to investigate it. Then under.
Yeah.
I President Trump has, and with his who you are asking for stupid. Much is going to be. I may be wrong, but I says to Medicaid. That is a big swing. All right, KFI Newsroom.
Riverside County has seen then Fenton Palos Verdes was under it. Says as all illegal county problem.
And he never moved. Somebody maybe should go after car manufacturer. How do you go to an expert like lemon law? And sent by the manufacturer. Which means that
That's wild. So did they get to leave?
Usually does, and they'll tell you about it when you talk to them. Sometimes a lot more than that statutorily. So 0333.
Yeah, white are worth 20, worth 10. Red's worth 50. Dude, you are cleaning up. You are cleaning up, son. But all the least amount of points. Dude. No way. No way you get this. No way you get this. Oh, what a great shot. What a great shot. You're making a serious. I don't know. No. Welcome.
Slow from the Orange Crush, and just a heads up, we've got Inglewood Avenue closed at Imperial Highway because of a shooting in the area. Police are on the scene with Southern California's most accurate.
Oh man, I just gave you. That's a big miss, dude.
Taking your kids to the first baseball game.
Go.
About COVID-19 vaccines at getvaccineanswers.org. It's up to you.
Miss. Shit.
Podcast Network. Explore podcasts like this. We all love a good jailbreak. The elaborate schemes, the close calls, the moment when it. Oh my God. It's fun. Click into place.
Thank God we lived to tell the
If you get the red, you win.
And I've been lucky enough. City and Narcos and Roadhouse.
Oh, you have to cover it. Don't fuck up.
I don't feel the space is crowded enough. Each week, I'll be sitting down with some of the most hilarious. I climbed up
I can't believe I missed. It's a difficult shot for you, though.
I love storytelling and I love you, so I can't wait. Together, we're gonna puzzle our way through the most buck wild true escape stories.
Go, baby.
Like, what should you do? Maybe write a musical.
I can't believe I missed. Go, go.
Across the mode. So we'd love for you to come hang with us for some of the greatest escapes in history. Listen, on America's
This would be a huge comeback. Perhaps one of the greatest comebacks in the history of sport or gaming. Got it, baby. We're done. All right. So that's freestyle. I don't know the difference between live and turn-based, so it's like they're exactly the same. Oh, wait. I think maybe I could be wrong, but if you play with, so this game isn't just 2 versus 2 or 1 versus 1. It can be played 2 versus 2, and I think if it's 2 versus 2, then it's turn-based. So like, no matter how many you put in, I get to go next if we're on the same team. Does that make sense? You know, that's a thought. I don't think. Does that work for golf? We'd have to time it like exactly right. I mean, we can try it. But then what are the odds we're on the same team? This is a tough shot. I'm going to do some risky. Very risky shot here. Oh, what a good job. Very difficult shots. Oh, I'm just getting so fortunate. There you go. If there are so many of those balls that you can't put your slide in the spot. I can't really get the ball like. There's two.
Because now they have a lot more information because Medicaid collapsed. Medicaid is not any kind of an enforcement authority. It's just there to give you money to help you with your medical issues. And so this plan has not been identified publicly yet. Is the latest step by the Trump administration to gather information about people living in the U.S. It's made a pledge to crack down on illegal immigration, arrest 3,000 undocumented immigrants a day. That was the pledge. As they go and get the actual numbers, we're getting all kinds of different numbers. And of course, legal challenges will start immediately. And the critics have sounded the alarm ever since.
Come on, baby. Just like slide it with their wrist, if I recall. No.
Our state is operated by the state, but it's otherwise paid for by the state. because the feds won't pay for it. Otherwise ineligible for federal Medicaid. We have our own Medicaid. It's called Medi-Cal. And it's
I don't know why I did that.
money as long as the state does not bill the feds for any costs, any medical costs. Now here
That was good point.
All right. By Attorney General for the USA.
You're done. I'm going to end it right now. Oh, fuck. Great shot.
Individuals' private health information for the unrelated purpose of possible enforcement actions. Lawful non-citizens, people here legally, not U.S. citizens, and mixed status families.
You're fucked.
Non-citizens who are involved in family, married to someone who is legal, or having a brother who is, or having children who are. So, Department of Homeland Security.
If I make this, I win.
Wouldn't answer any questions.
Game winner. Do you know what the dragon attack is?
Do the normal pattern that every administration does, and this one is consistently promised.
Well, if you get to the
eligible beneficiaries.
necessary number.
That promise after Joe Biden.
All right.
And the government is
Okie
exploring
doke.
initiative to ensure illegal aliens are not receiving Medicaid benefits.
Classic.
For law-abiding
2
citizens.
players.
So, unlawful immigrants not permitted to enroll in Medicaid, and
Riser.
the information that is out there that is held by the states, the government wants. Now, I just don't understand this. Sharing. Firewall. And
Can I tell you something? No, those are all fake calls. It's very common that radio stations do that. Ryan Seacrest show does it in LA. It's like his is called Ryan's Roses, and instead of like the rewards card, they just send roses to someone, and so we just need the first and last name and a message on the card, and then the guy will be like, "Oh yeah, okay, I'm gonna send it to Jane, whatever," and then the wife's on the phone line at the same time, and she'll be like, "Who's Jane?" Right? Yeah, those are fake. I was very disappointed to find that out. Dude. Because a few reasons. Yeah, a lot of people will just send their shit to their real spouse, and it's not that spicy. Like, if you listen to those shows, I used to listen to them every day, or they would do them like once a week or something, at least in LA. And at first I thought they were real, and it was like, how are all these people such bad spouses? And then I started learning more about the radio world, because I had a lot of contacts in radio, and because we were their customer, And so I started looking into it. I would listen because I would want to hear our advertising on the radio and make sure it was being played correctly. And so I'd listen to this, and like I always wondered, like, do you know who Ryan Seacrest is? No, he does like American Idol, and he also does um Wheel of Fortune. No, maybe, but not to my knowledge. That's that was like Bob Saget and some other people. But anyway, he also did Live with Regis and Kelly, but it was Ryan and Kelly. Anyway, he's like a giant radio personality in the US, easily the biggest one. And we were going to sign him to a spokesperson agreement for $1 million. And so we would listen to his show, and I would listen to it, and I'd be like, what is going on with these people? Now, you want to hear something funny? No, nothing like that. A lot of people think he's gay, but I'm not sure. No, so then they would do these other shows. This is before I knew that this was all just to make good radio. And wow. And okay, so they had this thing called, I forget the name of the segment, but they had some girl who, oh, I have to get the thing. What can I get them both at the same time? Oh fuck. I guess no. So there was this girl who they had on the radio. Okay, so basically the story was they paired two couples or a couple together. Not like, I forget what it was called. It's called like First Date or whatever. And they were like, yeah, we've got this these two people, this one girl who's new in town. She's from New York, and then this guy, and they're gonna go on a date, and then we're gonna buy him dinner, and then we're gonna hear about how the date went. And so this girl is like, yeah, I met, let's just call him whatever, anything, James. I met James at the restaurant, and he was really cute. He was really good looking, and I told him I wasn't from here, so we started talking about like what there's to do in LA and how it's different than New York or whatever. And she was like, and he just seemed like not really into me, and he was really into all the other girls like in the restaurant, and I just thought it was really rude of him. Oh fuck. And James is there on the phone too, and James is like, it wasn't like that. We were just at a restaurant with a lot of good looking chicks, and I don't know, I'm like a single guy, and I'm on a date, but like I fuck. I was just, you may say I have a wandering eye, but I was just checking out the talent basically. And he just kept sounding like a real douchebag on the phone. And I heard this, and I'm like thinking to myself, look, this girl is from New York. She doesn't know anyone here, and this guy's like being an asshole. So I forget the name of the show, but it was called like, it was like, is it a love connection or something like that? And so at the end, they were like, do you want to go on a second date with this person? And she was like, no, absolutely not. This guy, he was a real jerk. And so I heard this on the phone or on the radio. And my stupid ass was like, dude, that's not the way any guy should treat a girl. And the way that she sounded like a Brooklyn Jew. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna take this girl out, but I'm gonna try. So I called the radio station and I'm like, hey, you just had this young lady on from New York, and she said she's from Brooklyn or whatever, and she's new in town and she was just on this bad date. Here's my number, and if she's interested on going on a date, have her call me. And the person with whom I spoke on the phone, she's kind of like a semi-famous person in LA, and she's like, oh, okay, well, that was really nice of you. Thank you so much. Which I'm sure she's laughing to herself on the other end, like, this guy doesn't know that these are two actors, and this girl was paid to be on the show, and the guy was paid to be on the show, and I didn't know that. So then only would I find out that these people were actors like later on, but I was still like, whatever. I didn't think it was nice the way that that guy was treating that girl, especially if she's new in town, and I was going to show her a better. They had another show in the United States called Cheaters, um, and it was a show where they would, it was all set up, but everybody wanted it to be real because there's nothing more exciting. Well, did you see these two people who got caught at a Coldplay concert? Like, it's all over the internet today. So everybody loves those kinds of stories because there's like a revenge aspect of it, and there's like, the exactly infidelity and all these. Exactly. Did you get my invitations? Absolutely. Okay, I'll finish talking. Welcome. How are you? What's good? Oh, well, basically, he's the CEO of astronomy, and he was cheating with the head of HR, and then they had a third person there from their company who was like knew that they were having this affair. It seems like it was one of these companies. I mean, it had $1 billion valuation, and it has like Bain and Co. as like backers. It's a lot of money. I have a feeling that this is going to be good for this company, but this guy's got to step down, and there's a chance that he could get sued or whatever. He's going to lose his ass in a divorce. I can probably tell you that. And okay, well, they had this show in the United States like maybe like 10 or 15 years ago. Exactly. And then did you hear what Chris Martin said? So Chris Martin, the lead singer of Coldplay, was like right when the girl covered her face and the guy dropped down, he said, "Well, they're either having an affair or they're just really shy." So they would have been totally fine, and no one would have probably known if she didn't cover her face and he didn't drop down. But the second they did that, it became a viral moment. And um, okay, so they had this show in the United States called Cheaters, and the show's premise was we have married couples, and we have somebody who is cheating on their spouse, and they have been for like a long time. And what we're going to do is have the cheating spouse go on a date with their side piece, and then we're going to bring the wife along and have her confront them. And this was a very popular I don't want to say very popular, but it was a popular syndicated show that would come on really late at night. And based It was bullshit radio. No, it was not real. So everyone on the show, it was all bullshit. And so that's why the show didn't do really well long term, because people started to find out, hey, this is fake. Um, but yeah, they used to do that on like all those like daytime shows like Ricky Lake and Montel and like I don't know, Sally Jesse Raphael. They used to like have somebody would be cheating on somebody and whatever. And then there was this one show called Jenny Jones. It was pretty popular in the United States, and this isn't exactly the same, but it was an interesting thing. So there was this woman had a daytime talk show named Jenny Jones, and she invited a man onto her show, and the theme of the show, or the like whatever the theme of the show that day was, um we work together and I'm in love with you. And so he agreed to be on the show, and he's there, and Jenny's talking to him, and she's like, all right, so you ready for us to give the big surprise and the person with whom you work and who's in love with you? And he's like, yeah. And he could see that one of the people he worked with, this lady, was in the audience. So he figured that was going to be her. And it was going to be like, okay, I'm in love with you, whatever. But it turned out it was a guy who he worked with. And he ended up killing that guy. The guy who was surprised by the guy who had a crush on him ended up killing him. And they ended up canceling that show in the United States. It's kind of a wild thing that happened. Anyway, it doesn't have to do with cheating, but it did have to do with like revenge and stuff. Um, and that was a real case. But at least that the cheaters on the phone, now that you hear them, like, aren't you kind of like, oh, what are the odds of somebody like so many people cheating? I mean, at least in LA, it would be over the course of a month, they would do the show, I think on Tuesdays and Thursdays or something. And it would be, so that would maybe be like, let's say 10 weeks or so ish, not really, but close. And like they would have five of the ones would be like somebody would want to send it to their wife. And then three of the ones or four of the ones, they'd have it send to the lover. And then one or two of them, it might be like they can't get a hold of the person. Now you asked, well, why don't they do it with real people? It's difficult to get a hold of people just off the bat to pick up the phone at work and stuff. So it doesn't really work that way. And chances are it's like 95 out of 100 times they would send it to their spouse. They're not going to send it to their lover. It's just like you're a random stranger on the phone. I'm already secretive about this relationship. Why would I disclose this information to a random stranger? You know what I mean? Well, then I understand, but the show's then liable. So, like, they canceled the destroying people's lives. It would at least in the United States, there's an argument that it's intentional infliction of emotional distress, which is a tort. So basically, it's illegal in United States law to cause someone emotional distress unnecessarily. It is, but it has certain requirements, which are emotional attention. But they're not doing anything illegal. So, um, To establish the claim for intentional infliction of emotional distress, first, the defendant's conduct must be extreme and outrageous, meaning it goes beyond what is normally acceptable in civilized society. So a radio station would be doing that. That's not a normal thing for someone to do. Second, the defendant must have acted either intentionally or recklessly with the intent to cause severe emotional distress or with a disregard for the likelihood that their actions would cause such distress. So they would be intentionally doing this. It's not like it was an accident. Third, because the defendant's conduct isn't seen as extreme or outrageous, meaning going beyond what's normally acceptable in civilized society. People cheat, and that's accepted in civilized society. Third, the plaintiff must demonstrate that they suffered severe emotional distress as a result of the defendant's actions. Fourth, severe emotional distress is defined as emotional pain that is so substantial that no reasonable person in a civilized society should be expected to endure it, and may include symptoms such as anxiety, depression, and other significant psychological harm. Additionally, while some jurisdictions may require medical documentation of the distress, others may accept testimony from acquaintances regarding changes in behavior. So I think the big one is severe emotional distress is designed as emotional distress so substantial that no reasonable person in a civilized society should be expected to endure it. If you are in a relationship, you're expected to have to endure emotional distress at some point in a relationship if somebody cheats on you. However, you aren't expected to, you're not expected to have that broadcast on the radio. That's not something that would be expected in a civilized society. Now, to your point, I think if you do cheat on your spouse, that it should be considered intentional infliction of emotional distress. But courts don't find that. That's something that they consider at least something that is to be expected in civilized society. I don't though. I guess I have, you know, um, I think people should act morally. But if a radio station, I mean, look, that was just my idea. I'm gonna We're gonna find the real reason right now. Yo, dog, a show like Ryan's Roses on Kiss FM in Los Angeles has actors that are on the phone who portray cheaters, and these are very popular in society on radio. Why is it that a radio station could not do this with real people? Yo, that's a sharp observation. You're definitely not the only one who's wondered about why segments like Ryan's Roses are staged. Here's the deal. Why Ryan's Roses might use actors or seem like it. Legal liability. If they prank or expose real people cheating without consent, the station risks lawsuits, defamation, emotional distress, or invasion of privacy. So all of those actually. So defamation, definitely, and then invasion of privacy because they're on the phone broadcasting to like a million people, millions of people. Using actors or getting consent after the call airs protects them from legal blowback. Welcome. How are you? What up, Ramblex? Ramblex, can you hear me? I didn't want to talk with you anyway. FCC and consent laws. At least in California, it's a two-party consent state, which means it's illegal to record and broadcast a phone call unless both people agree. So either get the person's consent afterward. Sometimes they say this, or they use actors making it dramatized but legal. Entertainment over authenticity. Real people are messy, unpredictable, and might not deliver a clean or dramatic story. With actors, or at least coach participants, they can script the pacing, emotion, and drama to make it viral and addictive. Production and control. Dead air, awkward silences, or boring calls don't make good radio. Actors allow for tight editing and make sure the segment hits all the dramatic bests. Why not use real people? They can and sometimes do, but only if they get full permission after the fact the people involved are okay with it being broadcast, it doesn't defame or harm someone's public image without cause. So that would be one where you had like somebody who really sent the roses to their spouse. They're not being defamed, whatever. Hey, can we use this as a real call? Yeah, go for it. But that's risky and inconsistent. Radio stations want reliable daily content, and actors or semi scripted real people give them that. Make sense? Yeah, but then what if you have a situation? I mean, this gets messy. So let's say you have a husband who cheats on his wife every single day, and his wife just gets sick of it. She has to stay in the relationship for the kids, and so she gets a side piece because her husband keeps cheating all the time. Well, they don't say that on the air, and then when they talk to the woman, it'll make it seem like she's cheating when you don't. She has doesn't have a chance to explain herself. Well, okay, so she right, so she would be like, "Yeah, I'm cheating, but that's because my husband's cheating all the time with all these other people." And she wouldn't have the same opportunity to trick him, and that's just unfortunate. Yeah. I know. I get that. Um, I know when I was a kid, they used to do these calls that were real because I knew two people. I knew someone who had one set up. So it was called like the birthday call, and it was a very popular segment of the radio station. So what they would do is it would have to be somebody's birthday. So let's say the person was working as, I don't know, an administrative assistant, and it was their birthday. So the radio station would get permission from like a spouse and call the administrative assistant and be like, "Hi, is Sarah there?" And Sarah would be like, "This is she." And they'd be like, "Hey, Sarah, I'm calling from Tony's Pizzeria over on Ventura, and I'm trying to get a pizza delivered to such and such address. Can you help me find it?" And they'd be like, what do you excuse me? And they'd be like, "Yeah, I'm trying to it's on Ventura. I'm right outside your building right now. I'm just trying to deliver a pizza." And the person would be like, "This is quite a strange call. Well, how can I help you?" And they'd be like, "Yeah, I just need you to just ask around where your office is and just ask if somebody ordered a pizza because Tony's here to deliver it." And then the person would be like, "Well, okay." And they'd go and ask a few people and then come back to the phone and be like, "Well, I asked and nobody here has ordered a pizza." And then they'd be like, "Oh, okay. Well, we did it as a prank on you. Happy birthday." And then they'd sing to you and all these other things. And that one was allowed because it didn't necessarily defame the person and all the other things. It was like a positive thing. Um, yeah, that's true. But I think it was, yeah, it was either that. It was. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. They asked for consent, and I've heard them on YouTube as well. And it could be they just are in a state that's a one party state as well. I'm not exactly sure on those. Um, but I knew that they did do. Yeah, it just depends on what state you're in. Um, um, I mean, there's a list of them. What are the one party consent states? Yeah, so like I can't tap your phone as a third party, but let's say you call me, I can record our calls and not tell you. So states that are one party consent, um, so as I recall, this happened in New York. The people I knew, or at least from New York, so I guess that's how they were able to do it. Anyway, I remember them telling me at, exactly. You can't in California, but you can in some other states. Quite a few. There are like it's more states than not. So in the United States, only 9 states require all parties consent, and 41 are. Um, I think they should be legal. Uh, so I love prank calls. Did you ever see Crank Yankers? It used to be on Comedy Central. Do you know what this is? Okay, so do you know who Adam Carolla is? He has. Okay, do you know who Jimmy Kimmel is? Yeah, he has Jimmy Kimmel show on. Okay, so they used to do this show called The Man Show, and then they did a show on Comedy Central, and it was called Crank Yankers. And what they would do, since you needed two parties to consent in the state of California, they would go to Las Vegas, which is like 3 hours away, and they would make the telephone calls from there, from another state, but it's not that far away. And what they would do is call people from all over the United States, and since it was a one party consent state, they could pull pranks on people, and the kind of pranks they would pull are like, like, oh, um, did you know that your refrigerator's running? And people would be like, my refrigerator's running. Yeah, they'd be like, or they'd be like, is your refrigerator running? They'd be like, yeah, my refrigerator's running. And then it'd be like, well, you better go catch it. Like little jokes like that. I mean, that's like a common one, but um, they would do this and they'd do it for like 21 minutes or whatever, at least enough of them, and that would be an episode. But because they were only doing telephone calls, they needed to have something to show on TV. So they would have Muppets that were playing the part of both sides. So it was something of had some visual aspect to it. And it was a funny show. Um, and then I went like in the early days of YouTube. Um, I used to love this a few shows that it was called. Um, there were just a few prank call shows on YouTube, and one of them was called Friday Night Cranks or Friday Night Cranks. And since it was on Friday, I couldn't listen to it, but I would listen to it on like Sundays or like during the week. And what they would do is it was like this brother and sister who could do voices pretty well. And then they would just call like Walmarts and they'd be like, yeah, can you tell me what aisle your flashlights are on? And the people would be like, all right, well, just one moment. Let me go look. And they'd be like, okay, it's aisle 14. And they'd be like, all right, well, can you tell me what aisle the lettuce is in? They're like, well, that's in the produce section. Like, okay, well, can you tell me where the honey's located? And they're like, okay, well, we'll have to go to the aisle for that. They'll be like, that's aisle 16. They'd be like, all right, well, can you tell me where the rope is located? They'd be like, that's in hardware. And they're like, what aisle is hardware? They'd be like, oh, it's aisles like 11 through 17. They'd be like, all right, well, can you tell me exactly? So they get their whole grocery list or shopping list like from the person at Walmart and know where all the aisles are. And after a while, the person at Walmart would just be like, I'm done. I don't care. And they'd hang up and they'd be like, ha, 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 or whatever. Sometimes they would just tell them they were being pranked, whatever it would be. Okay, so the big one that, yeah, oh yeah, you definitely, just to drive people batty. Yes. And so they like to call big stores like that. And it used to be really entertaining. And this was before the days of Mr. Beast and stuff like that, where this was like real content and it wasn't like thumbnails and all that other stuff. Okay. So the reason why that show stopped, the sister stopped doing it. I think she just kind of grew out of it. I think, you just mature to a certain point and they felt bad pulling these pranks on people. All right. So the best ones though, if you want to listen to just 8 hours of funny fucking shit like this, they had a guy back in. Do you know what Napster is? Yeah, yeah, of course. But like back in the day, you had Napster. So you had so Napster was something like that. So you had Napster, and then you had LimeWire, and then you had FrostWire, and you had like there were a bunch of them. Like one would get shut down, and then another one would start up. And there was only like a limited amount of songs. I don't. It wasn't like Spotify that had all of the songs that are really neat and like playlists and stuff. It wasn't like that. It was like sometimes the artist, they would say the artist was one thing and it was really another thing, or sometimes the name of the song would be messed up, or sometimes they would say it was like a video, but it was really just like gory, like a gore video or something like that. They would say it was like a music video, but it was just gore, and it took forever to download stuff. I mean, you have no idea how fortunate we have it where things download relatively quickly. Back then, it would literally say that it was going to take years to have this stuff download. Like it would take weeks sometimes to download a certain song, and because oh yeah, oh, absolutely. I can't tell you how many CDs I burned from that kind of stuff. And so, oh yeah, but you had dial-up internet. Even pictures took long to load on the internet. So a whole sound file, it would take like 5 or 6 hours to download a song with good internet. If you had good internet, it would take way shittier, dude. You have no idea. It would take to load a web page, it would take like 5 minutes, just one page. And then to download a whole song, it would take hours, like many hours. And it wasn't just, oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. I'm telling you, sometimes it would tell you it's going to take a week or more to download a song. And sometimes it would say it would take years to download a song because the internet was so. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. There are people who would screenshot it and like publish it. Like it would say like it's going to take 340 years to download like a Green Day album or like a Green Day song or something like that. Well, okay, so back in those days, there were people who published prank calls in addition to music. And so there was one guy who got really famous. I don't know if he got famous, but his prank calls were famous because he could do a really good Arnold Schwarzenegger impression, and he would use a soundboard and like call people who generally were not like native English speakers, and he'd call like a 7-Eleven, and he would use a soundboard of Arnold. Oh, that's right. He would use a soundboard of Arnold Schwarzenegger. He couldn't even do the impression, but the soundboard of Arnold would be like the guy at like 7-Eleven would pick up hello, and the the guy with the soundboard would be like, "Give me your wife and kids," and he would be like, "Hello," and he'd be like, "Get into the chopper," and he'd be like, "What chopper? Like, how can I help you?" And it would be like, "I'm not your daddy," and he'd be like, Who's my daddy?" Like basically, this was so new to the world. Not that prank calls were so new to the world, but using soundboards and things like that became Very popular. Okay, so then fast forward a little bit. Do you know who Howard Stern is? So Howard Stern, who dominates New York City radio, not really that big in LA, but dominates the tri-state area, which is New York City, New York, New York State, Connecticut, and New Jersey. He would have people on his show. His show used to be so big, and it was so big. It was a radio show that they would show on E at night before the Kardashians, before any of that shit. It was Howard Stern at night. So he would do these things where he would have people from his show do prank calls, and they were really, really funny. And then he'd also have naked chicks on, and they'd like have to blur it on TV. But when you were like, I don't know, 14-year-old boy, like that's a huge fucking deal because there was no porn. And you might be like, well, wasn't there porn on the internet? It took forever to load. I mean, it would take like just a picture would take like 30 minutes. I mean, it just was so slow. Like 19 like 1999. Yeah. I mean, let's oh, there were no videos like that on the internet. uh, Companies did not host video on their websites. You would have to download a video, and to download a video, it would take a very long time. Yeah, it would take like like I remember eventually around like 2005 or so, you could start to download videos on Napster, and it would take like a week to download a video or a game or something. And that was in under the best conditions. What would end up happening, the way it worked is, let's say you had a file I wanted. Let's say like a popular movie back then, The Matrix. You have The Matrix. You would upload it to a website called Napster. Well, actually, you didn't even do that. You didn't even upload it that way. The way it worked was you had it on your computer, and you would share it with all these people around the world, and they would download it piece by piece from you. But let's say you went offline, well, that means that the downloading stopped. So you might have 1,000 people downloading the Matrix from you, but if you went offline, then all these people had to wait on you to get back online to download that video from you. So that's one of the reasons why it took so long. And then the download speeds were really, really shitty, and the upload speeds were even worse. All right, so but let's say we eventually got the Matrix from you. It would take hours, or not just hours, but it would take hours for a song under the best conditions. Usually, if there was a song you really wanted, you had to expect it to take maybe 4 or 5 hours in the best conditions, and at least a week or so under shittier conditions. And sometimes there would be stuff that you would want. Let's say you had that Matrix, but you just went offline, and or you got a different computer. Then 1,000 people would just have a video that was downloaded 50% that they couldn't use it because it had to be downloaded in its entirety, and then we would never be able to use it. So we would just have this wasted file space on our computer unless we deleted it. It was a very, very inefficient way of getting media. However, it was free, and it was the wild, wild west. You would download something. Let's say you listed it as The Matrix. There was like a very good chance that it could be some execution video in Afghanistan or some kind of porn, even though it was named The Matrix, 2001 or whatever, whenever it was published or whatever. It was just, yeah, you didn't know what you were getting. Yeah, exactly. And you didn't know what you were getting. Anyway, back to Howard Stern. So there are yeah, they could. I mean, do you know what torrenting is? Well, that's what this That's what this was, except it was peer-to-peer file sharing. But just like how torrenting is kind of risky, this was risky too. Now, if you're wondering, like, well, why didn't you just download stuff all the time? ISPs would send letters to your house if you did it too much, and threatened to shut you down or threatened to have you prosecuted. And there was only like one person who was ever really prosecuted. There were more, but it wasn't like they just made a lot of threats because there was a lot of. Okay, there you go. Without a VPN. Right. Because you could do that with a VPN pretty well, but without one, you get some like an email. Yeah, if you did it now, if you use a VPN, you can go crazy. Yeah, just oh no. Okay, so if you want to listen to like 8 hours of the funniest fucking um prank calls, okay, you go to YouTube, and I think you could just type in Howard Stern prank calls. But no, that's illegal in the United States. So they have this. No, prank calls are not illegal, but prank calling the government or like emergency services are. Okay, so like okay, so there's this thing called Tradio. So these things were so fucking funny. So there'd be like a really innocent radio station in like I don't know, Chattanooga, Tennessee, or like some smaller place in middle America. And Howard Stern would have his minions or whatever call these radio stations. And these radio stations had a, a type of show called Tradio, Tradio. And what that was like you could, it was before Craigslist or it was before like eBay or anything like that. What you would do is, let's say you had like I don't know, an old pitcher's mitt that you wanted to sell. Well, you could normally have like a garage sale or something like that, or you could put it up for sale on Tradio and with a way to contact you. So let's say Riser wants to sell a hockey stick. So you would call Tradio and you'd say, "Yeah, I have a hockey stick to sell. You can buy it for $10, and you can contact me at 555-5555." And somebody would hear that you were selling a hockey stick, and they'd call, and they would just call you and say, "Hey, I heard you were listing a hockey stick. Do you understand the idea?" Okay, so Howard Stern would have his minions or his people call these really small shows and be like, "Yeah, I've got a used dildo that has a little bit of cum still on it, and I'm gonna sell that for $75." And they'd be like, "All right, use dildo. Wait a second." And they cut that person off. Then they'd call right back with another voice, and they'd be like, "Yeah, I have uh, a steaming hot pile of shit," and they'd like cut them off right away. So then they call. Exactly. And they would just be two people calling one after another after another after another. So it was a different voice. They would do different voices and they would do this for hours. So what do you look up? You just look up Howard Stern prank calls, and they have compilations of these things, and they're so fucking funny. I still listen to them to this. Um and these compilations are like 3 hours long, and they're just all prank calls, prank call after prank call after prank call. And so they would call these people. Let me, like, just off the top of my head, um, I don't even know if ChatGPT will allow this, but here we go. Yo, dog, Howard Stern used to do a thing with prank calling Tradio. What are some of the things that they would call and sell, like the prank stuff that they would sell? What are some examples? Yeah, so they would sell yeah, like I have like some used butt wipes for sale, or I've got some penis enlargement cream. or I've got an electronic flatulence simulator. And the guy who's on the phone is like this real, like backwoods kind of guy who doesn't put together like an electronic flatulence simulator is a fart machine. And they'd be like, all right, well, we've got one electronic flatulence simulator. And how much did you want to sell that for? And they'd be like $8. And they'd be like, all right, $8. And you can contact me at 555-5555. They'd have like, yeah, I've got a rectal thermometer for sale, and I'm looking to get $18 on that. Or yeah, I've got a book here. It's called How to Pick Up Women with Halitosis. I gonna sell it for $7. They'll just have like all kinds of ridiculous things, and or they'd be like, I've got used dentures. I don't know whose they are, but I'd like to get at least $11 for those. And I've got some stained underwear from the former quarterback of the Green Bay Packers, Brett Favre. And that's going to be, I'd like, it's a celebrity item. I'd like to get at least $6 for that. And I've got some celebrity toenails. I dug through Pamela Anderson's garbage for this, and I'd like to get at least $12 for those. And they'd just be like, we've got some fresh cow testicle jerky. You get, yeah. So listen to those. There's like 8 hours of those that they've done or so, maybe a little more. They're hilarious. Prank calls aren't really that big in the United States anymore. And the reason why is because caller ID became a thing. And once caller ID became a thing, it killed the whole prank call industry. I do, but like if you were, let's say, like running one of those shows, you're not going to expect like a New York area code to call you. And at the time they didn't have like number switchers like the things they have today, so it would just be like, these numbers keep calling us, and you could call them and get them blocked. This one time, just hold on, I've got one last story for you. So my friend, I will calm down. My friend and my friend was at my house, and he was spending the night, and it was like the first time, maybe he wasn't spending the night, but our parents were friends, and they were going out to like dinner, and I think they were going to go to a casino or something like that. And my friend was over, and he's like, you want to do prank calls? And I was like, yeah, let's. I didn't really want to because I was a pretty good kid, but I don't know, we were bored or whatever. So we got on the phone and we started calling just random people in the phone book because like we didn't have any numbers to call. And we called this lady, and we were just like, we were laughing so hard that like we couldn't even breathe because like we were just having a good time. And so we were prank calling her, and we kept calling her, and she'd answer and we'd hang up or whatever, and we were having a really good time. Well, then this was like, like our family had like pretty advanced phones, and they had caller ID built into them, and we get this call, and it was from the police, and they left we didn't pick it up, but they left a message. We went to the answering machine and listened, and they were like, this is officer so and so, we've got a complaint that some kids are making prank calls from this number, and causing distress to someone. So my friend and I were like freaking out. We were like, I don't know, 11, 12, 13 years old or something like that. We were freaking out. And then we got this knock at the door later that night, and the police came, and we did not open the door. We just stayed quiet the whole time, and just like, we were freaking out. Anyway, after we did that, that was like that was like the last time I think. I don't know if it was the last time I did prank calls, but yeah. So we got the police called on us. How do you like that? We would just kept calling her, and when she would answer, we'd hang up. And like, yeah, and there was no way to. It was an old lady, and there was no way to like block somebody's call. You know, like today you could block a caller, but back then you couldn't. And she didn't just leave her phone off the hook. She just kept picking up, and so we kept calling her. And this, I remember, my friend was saying, we said something like, "I can't breathe," or something like that. Something like, "Oh, I know what it was. I can't read." She was like, we just, because reading was new to us or whatever, and so anyone who couldn't read was like funny to us that um that somebody couldn't read or something. And so when she did pick up one time, we'd be like, "I can't read," and she'd be like, "Who is this?" And it'd be like, "I can't read," and she'd be like, "Who's calling me?" And then we'd hang up and then wait 5 minutes and call her back. And we did it like 3 times. We didn't even do it that many times. It wasn't an outrageous amount, but it was enough to piss this lady off enough to call the police. And then the it was like, it was by far the scariest. Well, we were super scared when they called and left a message on the phone, because I was like, well, we have to delete this. They uh, yeah, so back then you had a phone book and everybody's telephone number was published with your address. And the police had a way to reverse a telephone number, which the normal person wouldn't have. So they just looked at our telephone number and knew the address, and then just came to the house. We weren't. We were super scared when they called and left a message saying to stop bothering this lady. But then when the police came and knocked on the door, I remember we had like all the lights on in the house, and the police started knocking on the door. Then all of a sudden the lights went out. Like, this officer had to be like, these kids are obviously home. And I remember, like, we were just like, it was almost like we were in a movie. When somebody's up against the wall, like breathing really hard, we were doing that. And just like, I remember being like, I'm never going to do this again. It was like one of the worst feelings. And so we had to delete that message on the telephone answering machine. And so we did. I didn't know how to. The message was just, yeah, this is Officer Johnson with uh, the county police, and we're calling to just investigate. We have prank callers coming from this telephone number. If you would please give us a call at whatever. And and I think so we had to delete the message. And I remember being able to delete the message. No, it is that much. It becomes criminal mischief. Yeah, exactly. Or it'd be harassment. Probably once she said, "Stop calling me," or something like that, or there's a way. But like, if the officer came to the door, we were like 12 years old. I mean, they're not gonna lock you up because of that. They would probably, what they wanted to do was have our parents answer the door, and then our parents would punish us basically. After having a police officer there, we would be freaked out. But fortunately, our parents were still gone, and I remember this was like, my parents were like, you know, we're letting you stay home by yourself for the first time with a friend. And my parents were with his parents, and they'd been friends since before we were even born. So they were very close friends. So anyway, we were able to delete the message. And then I remember being like, don't tell your parents. And he's like, no, dude, no, I'm telling my parents that what we were doing. And when my parents came home, I fessed up and I said, I think I told my mom because I didn't want to like upset my dad or anything like that. And I said, can I tell you something? And mom's like, sure, what's going on? And I was like, well, my friend, was here and he wanted to make prank calls on our phone. And I didn't really want to do it, but he did. And so we called this lady like 3 times, and my mom was like, who's this lady? And I was like, it was just a random number we got in the telephone book. And then the police left a phone message and I think came to the house, and my mom was like, what? Like, what did you guys say to her? And it was like, we didn't say anything bad. We just kept hanging up on her, but it was enough to just annoy her. And my mom was like, okay. And then she told my dad, and my dad was like, okay, well, like, so this was like the next day or later that night or something. So you didn't get caught basically, or like they didn't, you didn't have to talk with them. And I'm like, no. And it was like, okay, well, just don't do that again. And that's all I remember. But yeah, that was the big thing. And when Color ID came out, it was such a game changer that if people didn't have it, it was like a difference between being a middle class family and a lower class family. It was a huge difference. Yeah. Word dog. All right. Sleep tight. See you tonight for Carol. Word dog. Listen to those Howard Stern prank calls. They're absolutely hilarious. Tradio. It's hysterical. Peace, big dog.
Out into the Mediterranean Atlantic on uncertain destinations, and after great difficulty they managed to find their way to places like Ferrara and places like Amsterdam. To show you the Amsterdam equivalent, this is a very small detail from a book you may actually have in your home, the Maxwell House Haggadah, which was based originally on the 1695 Amsterdam printing of the Haggadah, which featured some amazing illustrations by a man named Abraham Bar Yaakov. Abraham Bar Yaakov was actually a Christian. He served as a Protestant minister before leaving Germany and migrating to Amsterdam so he could study Judaism. He ended up converting to Judaism and displayed great talent as an engraver, and he created the illustrations for one of the most popular Haggadahs in all history, which has graced tens of thousands of Jewish tables in America alone. It is largely a result of this one unusual individual's conversion to Judaism and his interpretation of the stories, the Haggadah. And this little detail is on the title page. It's his signature. You can see at the bottom there, Avraham Bar Yaakov, but he's portraying something which has no occurrence in the Haggadah whatsoever. But
how are you?
Personal view.
What up, Soy Lobo? Hello.
Of his life connected inextricably with Amsterdam. As you can see in the top left, there is again that motif, like in the Farrar Bible, ship at sea, distress, people falling overboard, the terrible sea monsters about to swallow them, but he transvalues that by putting in the lower right corner the figure of Jonah, disgorged by the great whale or great fish onto dry land to safety. And as he looks over his shoulder at the horrible danger that he has survived, that's when he reflects on the tremendous kindness that Amsterdam showed him by being that place of refuge intellectually and spiritually. And this is part of the Amsterdam Jewish story in a very small image. So I'm hoping that, God willing, we'll have the opportunity to speak at much more length about the entire history of the Jews of Amsterdam from their earliest origins up until the 21st century. But for now, I will conclude, and I'm going to hand this back to David, and I look forward to hearing your questions in the Q&A box. Thank you for your attention.
Let's take a break with Amy. Wow, thank you, Henry. This was, I have to tell you, such a interesting and totally executed lecture that, believe it or not, there are no questions because you said it all. So, thank you very much. And
ask questions, David. If
Welcome.
Someone else is ready to ask.
How are you?
Everyone is afraid to ask the first question. So if someone wants to start with the second.
What's good, Soy Lobo? Can you hear me? Soy Lobo. Yo, dog. Can you hear me? How are you? How's your day going, Soy Lobo? That means I am Wolf.
LA County Sheriff Robert Luna says his department complied with federal warrants when it handed over 20 illegal immigrants to federal agents.
Most of these individuals have had serious or violent charges such as attempted murder, robbery, rape, and sexual battery.
They have been being held in the county jail. Luna says the department is not in violation of any local laws supportive of illegal immigrants. He says he has not yet received an expected notice from the Department of Justice, which wants information on all illegal immigrants being held in county custody. The House has passed a plan to make $9 billion in DOGE spending cuts.
On this vote, the yeas are 216. The nays are 213. The resolution is adopted.
$8 billion will be cut from foreign aid and global health programs. Another $1 billion in public broadcasting funding is being cut. Money goes to networks like NPR and PBS. The bill now heads to President Trump's desk for a signature. A new U.S. assessment shows the U.S. airstrikes on Iran destroyed one of 3 nuclear enrichment sites hit. It says the 2 others were not as badly damaged and may have been degraded only to a point that nuclear enrichment could restart in the next several months. President Trump had called the strikes last month a spectacular military success and said that Iran's key enrichment facilities had been totally obliterated. NBC News says U.S. Central Command had developed a much more comprehensive plan to strike Iran that would have involved hitting 3 more sites in an operation that would have stretched out for several weeks, but that President Trump rejected them. Peacock is raising its subscription rates by $3 a month.
The streamer from NBC Universal has been a huge success thanks to its hit reality series Love Island, and expects a lot more viewers when the NBA season begins this fall. Starting next Wednesday, Peacock subscriptions are going up $3 to $10.99 a month with ads and $16.99 a month without. Price hikes will make Peacock the most expensive streaming service on the market. Mark Bronner, KFI News.
The Oscar-winning lyricist who helped compose The Way We Were and other classics has died. Alan Bergman died late yesterday at his home in Los Angeles. A family spokesperson says he continued to write songs until the very end. He and his wife wrote How Do You Keep the Music Playing, It Might Be You, and the classic The Way We Were. Alan Bergman was 99. Southland weather from KFI, slight chance of thunderstorms this morning. Otherwise partly cloudy. Highs in the low 70s, beaches 70s, low 80s for Metro LA and Inland OC, 80s to low 90s in the valleys, 90s for the IE and Antelope Valley. Morning clouds, afternoon sun tomorrow, highs about
Second question. We'll be good with
for the Antelope Valley, highs topping out near 100, and then we'll cool down a couple degrees.
maybe I will again act as the top during the Haggadah, asking simple questions, because I know you don't like hard questions. I will leave that for the vote. I will think of something very, very difficult, and then I will pop it. Maybe just very briefly, if you can talk a bit on the role of Hebrew print in Amsterdam, because Amsterdam obviously was very important printing center in the Jewish world.
Yeah, sure. That is a fascinating question. Thank you for asking it. We got to place this in context of the time, right? The printing press comes out in the middle of the 15th century. Jews are early adopters. They're loving it. This is a great way because, you know, the Jews are al-kitab, as the Arabs call us, the people of the book. And they really meant the people of the manuscript. But manuscripts are like hugely expensive, prone to error, very easily damaged, fragile, hard to replace. With the printing press, especially movable type, all of a sudden, you know, you have the opportunity for a tremendous new industry. And Jews are big consumers of written material. So there are a few big centers that develop. The Spaniards tried to get into it early on, but of course they're expelled very early. But our first Talmuds, for example, come from Spain in the 1480s, and then the Venetians in particular, in the beginning of the 16th century, they start printing big time. Amsterdam is kind of like the third wave of publishing for Jews. And you have a few major printing houses that are established there, largely because of very favorable tax policies and the absence of church oversight. In the Catholic countries, the church begins to say, wait a second, what exactly are you Jews writing here? Because it's all in Hebrew, we don't know what you're saying, and they have to impose lots of censors and things like that. In Amsterdam, you don't have that church oversight, and you have the mercantile connection where they're shipping books out everywhere across the ocean as well. So there is this effervescence of Jewish printing. Also, bear in mind that these Portuguese Jews, they're essentially Baalei Tshuva. They're essentially coming to Judaism with a Christian background, a secular background, if you will, for that time and place, and they're willing to entertain new ideas. It doesn't have to be orthodox, small O orthodox. You can give us new thought. You know, one of the most important Amsterdam Jews of the time was Manasseh ben Israel, who published a theory that some of the 10 tribes that were lost in the 8th century before the Common Era were actually alive and well and living in Colombia, in South America. And that was a hugely popular book, very influential across the ocean, translated into English as well. It's available under the title The Hope of Israel. So there's some fascinating, beautiful things with printing in Amsterdam.
Thank you very much. We have another question, which is from an anonymous attendee. Any idea why Dutch Jews, alone among all other Jews, wait only 1 hour between meat and milk?
Yeah, I think the one answer to that is probably the proximity of Swiss chocolate, Toblerone, right? Like once you've got such a great chocolate like that, you really want to eat it as soon as possible. Okay, that's a joke. I hope you laughed at that. It's an excellent question. I've never actually thought about how that particular minhag or custom developed. From a halakhic perspective, I'm not a rabbi, but from a halakhic perspective, when you look at the passage in the Talmud that talks about meat and milk, it doesn't specify a specific amount of time. And when you get to the expositors of halakha, especially at the time of the Shulchan Aruch, 15th, 16th century and onward, consuming meat and milk together, and especially the sense of taste. So you won't taste meat and milk together. That's why you have the development of a more strict opinion, perhaps in Eastern Europe, of 6 hours. In Germany, per se, 3-hour time limit, and in Amsterdam, in Holland, only 1 hour. I'll have to look further into it to see if there is a justification on a historic basis. But excellent question anyway, so I'm going to be thinking about that once I have lunch today.
Thank you. I think there are no more questions, so I would like to conclude the lecture part. Thank you so much, Henry. This is as always just pure pleasure to listen to you and learn from you. And I really hope that we will continue on the boat, and we will. We all know that, and I'm looking forward to that. So thank you, and now I will hand over to David Lawrence, who has a few concluding remarks.
Thank you so much, Henry. What we do on our cruises, I mean, Henry's an integral part of the team, and makes it, a really special experience. When we do our cruises, we're going all over the world, but we always try to have that Jewish aspect of it. We are a community of Jews traveling together, learning together, and that's all part of our process. When we our cruises are meant to be education in both secular, exactly what we're seeing, but to understand and the Jewish part of it, and to understand the secular part and the Jewish part. You got to understand both sides of the coin, and that's what makes us really special. What we do is, and when we create this community, people, Henry is always around, whether they're impromptu talks over dinner or whenever people can ask questions, people can have extra time. There's so much going on, as you know, and people who've been on our cruises before, they start at 8 in the morning and finish at 11 at night. So there's always something scheduled, and there's always something happening. Do as much as you want, or do as little as you want. And again, this is something that we've tried for the last, I guess, cruising has been doing this for about 25 years. Malcolm is one of the experts in cruising from large ships. We've moved over to the small ships because we enjoy being just a community of Jews traveling together, and we think that's what makes this a really special experience. People who came in a little bit later, we are waiting to hear what's happening in Europe, what's happening with the governments, how they're allowing the rivers to flow, who's allowed on the river, when, what are the protocols. Once we know what's happening, we'll let you know exactly what's happening. We have, like I said, our Dream Now Cruise Later, which is just sign up, no deposit necessary when the cruise is confirmed, and at that point you can make a decision if you want to come or not. And if Amsterdam doesn't go, if the Netherlands doesn't go, again, our next cruises will start in October in Portugal. And then for next year, we have everything from, as you see on our website, which we keep updated all the time. I'd like to thank everybody once again for coming. Please contact us if you have any questions whatsoever. Be happy to answer them, and spread the word. We're here, and we're looking to travel all together soon. And once again, thank you, everybody.
Money, reputation, sales, finances, all of it. So let's talk about CBS. We start with CBS. I want to give you a little history about CBS. CBS was started by a guy by the name of William S. Paley, who actually his father was a cigar maker and was pretty successful, and had bought this little tiny network as one of the business he bought and turned it over to William Paley, and he created CBS out of it. With the radio and then went into television, just an extraordinary career. CBS, when I was a kid, was the premier network by a long shot. It was not even close. Its news division, Walter Cronkite, and the reporters Roger Mudd and Dan Rather.
Hello, fellow students of Jewish history. I'm really excited to share with you today the results of a study that
from London, CBS. This was a news organization, a company that, Walter Cronkite was the most trusted man in America, and he was a news anchor at CBS.
Recently read that it's absolutely fascinating, talking about the genetic history
of its reputation.
of early Ashkenazi Jews. I'm just beginning my research now to prepare for the cruising season with kosher riverboat cruises. Looking forward to visiting the Netherlands and Belgium, and then a little later going to the Rhone River again to the south of France. So let's start with this new study, which is absolutely fascinating. It talks about the genetic history of early Ashkenazi Jews. So first of all, let's understand what are the regions we're speaking about. If you look at this map here, you see basically the settlement of Ashkenazi Jews begins in this northern central part of Europe, primarily Germany, the Rhineland, and these locations were where we begin to see Jews showing up from the 6th through the 11th century, especially around the 9th century, start getting much more concrete historical data. Then, of course, they'll spread towards the east in particular, eventually into the great heartland where they'll expand in Poland and Ukraine and eventually making their way over into the Americas. But one of the enduring questions in Jewish history has been like, how exactly did the Ashkenazi Jews get there? And there are a few different models of migration. Here, have a look at this map, which takes advantage of new research available through DNA studies. And the model, which seems to be the most definitive, and in fact, the study that I'll look at with you today seems to confirm it, indicates that most Ashkenazi Jews, or at least a plurality of them, have their roots in the Middle East, of course, in the region of ancient Israel, with a strong admixture of Italian DNA, meaning that they migrated from the ancient site of Israel through the Italian peninsula before they made their way to the heartland of Ashkenaz in northern Europe. There's also a significant admixture of Sephardic Jewry. You see them coming from the Iberian Peninsula after perhaps a trek across North Africa, and then moving into Provence, the south of France, and then up into the Ashkenazi heartland. But the main trend of migration, which has historically been accepted based on literary evidence, like the Colonimus family settling there and so on, has always been through the Italian peninsula. And some partial DNA results have indicated that there's support for them. DNA research is definitely the cutting edge of historical work, looking at these original populations. And one of the studies that we looked at a little while ago was the discovery of the remains of 17 people who were sadly thrown down a well in Norwich, England. Radiocarbon dating of the remains suggested that they came from the 12th century, after when they were just massacred with Jews to the third crusade. And in fact, when the DNA analysis was performed on these remains, it did confirm that these were Ashkenazi Jews, very well matched to contemporary Ashkenazi Jews. And as you can see from this image here, with Natural History Museum, they were able to actually reconstruct their faces. Amazing, based on the DNA evidence that they collected. They're also able to reconstruct some of their complexion and eye color, Austin, Texas, USA. It's the William Montgomery Show. Have blue eyes and red hair, which was very stereotypical way of depicting Jews in the film. The Tony Chin Orchestra. Fascinating to see these kind of shots. The point, however, is that as always, William is joined by the lovely Erica. I'm Casey Ryan. And now here he is, the big red machine, the Memphis William Montgomery. They have to take all kinds of precautions. They can't just dive in.
The top ones, I don't want to get too close to the joining, but
these
top ones,
that we live there.
put some honey
So
mustard
there's
on
always
them.
been a very difficult
Yeah,
to
dip
actually
some fucking fries on them.
But I'm very grateful to my
Yeah, it's
colleague,
like the
Dr.
people
Ellie
eating the
Goldberg,
sushi
who is
off
a
of
science writer, shared with me
naked
this
bodies.
fascinating
Yeah.
blueprint study
I did
that's going
know.
to be appearing in a very prestigious journal.
Did you? Yeah. Did you get food poisoning?
No,
it was
of a new study that comes out of Erfurt, Germany. Let me show you that study and explain how it depicts in much greater detail the genetic history.
Recorded live in
First of all,
Austin,
it's
Texas,
really
USA.
interesting.
It's the William Montgomery Show.
Which has
Starring William Montgomery in the devious case of the
writer of the article,
with the Tony
Data
Chin Orchestra.
from medieval German Jews,
William Montgomery, junior dancers. As always, William is joined by the lovely Erica. I'm Casey Crockett. And now here he is, the big red machine, the Memphis Strangler, William Buck.
Late afternoon, early evening.
Yeah, it's an internal alarm for the 7 a.m.
Yeah, it's your body telling you to use. Because once you start using, I mean, it's hard to stop using a lot of the time. Yeah, 7 a.m. you get the whole day at it.
Yeah.
Sometimes that set an alarm like stop using like 2:30. That clicks in.
Not anyone done using that. That's what snooze is for. Keep using.
Snooze you use.
Right.
It's smart though to have to stop using alarm. Yeah.
You gotta have both to balance out.
Yeah, for sure. Like
also fascinating, they looked at
everything sounds okay.
in the animal, they were able to
Yes.
identify, in fact, it's not upper remains came from a slightly different location.
Wait, you're telling me none of that was fucking recording, Graham? Behind using it was recording. Oh, yeah, it's got
which together
That was good. I was willing to talk about using
the whole time we were riffing, it was just like probably what it feels like to like hit a home run in Game 7 of the World Series. It's like
how I see the idea
we all slid into home right there.
the bottom of the
all at once, all the hands sliding in the
As a friend.
They're making the bases bigger these days, so it makes sense.
Ashkenazi Jews,
Yeah, there's been a big outcry for letting two people hit at once.
So the Jewish nation Israel,
It makes the game more exciting when you add more people to the plate.
There is a category.
And yeah, when they're hitting it, I haven't even seen it yet. Is somebody standing behind the other person, or is somebody standing in front of behind? So they're hitting together?
Yeah, someone stands behind the catcher in case the catcher catches it, and then you just smack it out of the cat glove. Yeah, that's how I play baseball.
Yeah, one more shot at it. That's incredible. That's a drastic rule change.
Yeah, you can usually get a grounder out of that one at the very least.
For sure.
Just smack it out the mitt.
Or just gonna threaten it. Let it go.
Yeah, he'll throw it for you.
Lob it out. She got on. Throwing over the fence. Did you ever do that?
Smack it over the fence?
Yeah.
All the time, man. I was heading towards the All-Stars, but then I gave it up,
Who were you playing for?
The Jets and mainly the Little Leagues, but yeah, I did the Jets for a little bit. That was cool. Yeah.
Was it the Jazz?
The Jets. Yeah.
Oh, wow. The Jets.
The Jets. Not even the New York Jets. Just the Jets.
Double A affiliate? Yeah, Houston.
I think so, yeah. Who cares? Who cares?
Yeah, whatever. It's so long ago.
It's not even like who I am anymore.
When did that all start changing? I think that's what everybody. Kind of somebody's watching this. When did that all start changing? The baseball.
Between the baseball, yeah. So baseball was a huge part of my life. Being on the Jets, and then
And hold on, excuse me, Grant. What was that? That was crazy looking. Hold on. Sorry about that. Put that back on. Yeah, can you put it back on?
Some of them might involve worse relations.
Look at that. So what were you saying about the Jets? You put it on.
yeah, it was a big part of my life. And then I tore my ACL 3 times in one game.
Why did they let you?
Because I'm the best.
Coach, take him out of there. He's gonna kill himself out there.
Coach did what he had to do. I still won that game for him, but yeah, I had to,
And that is
took me out of the Jets. That 3 times, that triple ACL tear.
Yeah, it's unheard of.
Yeah. Can't believe more people haven't heard about it.
that founder of
I
that,
know. I mean, I've only heard about it a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
and that
Everybody was talking about it.
a lot of the data that we have from other sources.
it's still recovering, but hopefully one day I might be able to
Calculate
step
that
back
based
up
on
to
the
the plate.
Same way.
It's very
Yeah,
clear that
3 times.
people
What was
who
your
are
front or
buried
back
in
sliding
airport,
leg?
the individuals discovered
Probably
there
both.
are the descendants
Yeah,
of people who
3
have
times.
this
They're coming back
of
from that.
Middle
Yeah.
Eastern
I don't know, man. You have a lot of doubt. And that's not what got me to the Jets. Doubt didn't get me to the Jets.
I think Grant actually tore his ACL in a grocery store one time, and he ended up suing somebody. That's why he has to go
are basically drawn from this
Is it true,
very
Grant?
small sample of
I'm not
people.
legally allowed to discuss the terms, but
It's something about that. Can you tear your ACL?
Even after another 700
They're
years,
crazy in a grocery store. Yeah.
That is a fun environment to carry a ACL.
It's one of the more fun ones. That and water park. Yeah. It's tough too, bro. Like, trying to get into the lazy river and you accidentally slap. And anyways, trying to cover up the evidence.
I don't know what this would look like.
Trying to cover their tracks.
Being lazy.
Essentially describes a picture of how modern magic use.
Yeah, there's sunscreen in
Have a
your
look at this
eyes.
map here, and
Just
basically the picture we have is where the number one is. We have the Jews exiled from Israel in the context of the Roman Jewish wars. They settle in Italy, and there they mix with the local
When's the last time you guys been to a water
and
park?
eventually make their way up to
probably
the
Big
Ashkenazi
Kahuna
heartland.
in the
And the
90s.
actual
Nice. Yeah, it's
percentages,
been a while.
it's hard to
I think once you like figure out that it's just like festive
you have a lot of southern
body
Italian influence, whereas northern
kind
Italian
of kills.
Yeah, well, that's
But
the
the authors
chlorine. That's
of
why
the
they put
study
chlorine in this.
suggest that the
Yeah, the chlorine, but
airflow
it's just
remains is somewhere
it's
between
chlorine
50
with body
and
fluid,
45%,
you know.
depending on the
Yeah,
individual
but
and
it
how
makes
you
the water
measure
really
both
slick.
southern and
They
northern
need it for
Italian.
flood.
Yeah, that's true.
Italian influence
Yeah,
is somewhere
you
between
get all
45
slick
and up
up,
to
and then get on one of those
70%
fast freaking
So
water
it's
slides.
basically confirming
Yeah.
the literary picture we
Yeah,
have.
yeah. Last time I went to was Great Wolf
being
Lodge.
essentially
Whoa,
the
you
descendants
made
of
it to
Middle
Great
Eastern
Wolf
Jews.
Lodge?
I've never been there. I want to go to Great Wolf.
I went probably 6
I find
or
that
7 months ago. I did
just
a
on its
2-day
own
trip.
because it helps
Nice.
solidify
It
our
was
picture of
fun.
how
Just
the
kind of
Ashkenazi
relax,
Jews
sit under the
could be.
mushroom
But of
spout,
course,
and
there's
spit
a
some
lot of
water over
other
the mushroom
implications.
top. Was
As
cool.
for example,
I've seen
the early
pictures of that
studies
thing. I
that
totally would have
identify
sworn. Were you nervous
specific,
just going solo?
Yeah, going solo, like my first big
adult adventure at Great Wolf Lodge was kind of a rite of passage in my family. It's like, you know, my dad like gave me a 20 and was like, that was pretty cool. Like, you know, he would trust me with that amount of money. So really, what? We go walking out the door, and he's dancing around everything. It kind of daps me up like drug dealer style. Great Wolf Lodge.
I've been there 20 minutes.
Well, it goes pretty far to Great Wolf Lodge. I got a corn dog and a soda every day. Oh yeah, you can flip them online.
Yeah, Great Wolf Lodge, trunk. Damn, that goes for at least 40.
Yeah, for sure.
At any rate,
People, yeah, they won't go solo, so like, they're happy to like buy them off you. Like, what was it like there? What was it like there, Lo? For sure.
Yeah.
People are too coward. People are too, they're pussies now. People are afraid.
Especially when it comes to the Wolf Lodge, yeah. Bunch of pussies stripped on us.
You have to go with somebody else. You never go solo. It's like, what are you, what?
Yeah, I'm gonna go to the Wolf Lodge just so I can become a man, just like you.
It's kind of that natural step you need after age 25. Like, okay, I can do this thing.
Yeah. So are you saying I should wait till I'm 25 just for a few more years of maturity?
Right now, ready.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, it gets scary, doesn't it? It's kind of scary, I've heard. Yeah, they shut the lights out.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's going to take a couple more years until I can deal with that, at least.
And I think that's one of the, isn't that brown thing? That's a slide, right? And it just shoots you out of the end of it, I think. That's one of the things you have to go on at Great Wolf Lodge.
It's a rite of passage. It's a 70-foot dead drop to the water.
There's nothing like it. There's nothing else like it.
Not in show business, absolutely not. A 70-foot, what is it called? A dead drop? It's a dead drop right to the water. You slow down at the ends. You got to just like teeter at the edge, plunge down. I can't even.
How do you survive that even?
Just by the grace of God. And just good prayers and good tactics. Try to land with your back first.
Gotcha.
What are you doing with your feet? Tuck them up. Okay, tuck them. Okay. Yeah, because I do hear back first, but I'm reading this and I'm like, well, what is that? What do you do with your feet? I know. Yeah.
You gotta tuck them up.
Tuck them up. Act like you're like a care package. Like act like your hands and your feet are tied in a bow. Damn, that sounds like speed. That sounds like the way to do it. Pure adrenaline. Then you get to meet Mr. Wolfie. Grant, pull up Mr. Wolfie.
Yeah, did you get to ride one of those bad boys?
Yeah, they let you, if you do the dead drop in like under 10 seconds, they let you ride them.
Oh my God.
How long is a dead drop normally taking, folks? I mean, it's like a 70 feet. That is a long.
Yeah, it feels long. At least 11 seconds.
Yeah.
You can handle it.
If you can handle the G-force, that's Mr. Cool. Who is he, like the spokesperson? Yeah. Or just, he's like an AI mascot. Like he's like based in Bitcoin, like he's on the blockchain. Damn, they were in before it was a popular thing. I mean, that's so strange. The AI, I can't even. It's been doing it a long time. Yeah. Damn, people, I'm sure were laughing in their faces. They're like, yeah, we have something called artificial intelligence. Our mascot is made out of artificial intelligence. People aren't even gonna figure out if it's a real wolf or not, and assume they don't know. And yeah, 20 years ago, everybody's laughing at it. Look at him now. Yeah, that's fucking Versace. He's got Dolce & Gabbana. He's got Dolce & Gabbana on in this? Damn, the shirt is Versace and everything else. Damn, and that's AI. That's AI Dolce twice. Yeah. Yeah, then look, there's the drop. Something's wrong with that woman. She's stuck, I think. Yeah, that's why it takes 12 seconds to get down once you get stuck.
There's not enough glory.
But all the way along his travels,
yeah, that brings us back to the original argument. Yeah, the glory of the flow.
I see it now.
Yeah, just next time you're there, I mean, if you really want to go to Great Wolf Lodge, I would be willing. We can both go solo, but we would know one another were there. But
yeah, it would
help.
help.
Solo, so we'd be able to get the experience. But just knowing you're there, if it ever gets scary or whatever, I can think he's here somewhere.
Yeah, if you ever like need any like chlorine or like more body fluid, I can like leave it at your door. You know, and you can do the same.
Or we would just have to stand next to each other in the wave pool and TT around. That's an easy way. I would always go. If that was a prank, I would always pull up people in the water park, just go up next to them in the wave pool and just start TT.
Yeah. We could TT on each other, but we'd have to close our eyes. That way, you know,
I'm not closing my eyes. Because I keep talking about that because I wouldn't close.
William, how are
not a great wolf? Not a great wolf. Keep those peepers open, brother.
Okay.
Only way to really become a man.
You get got by the wolf if you close your eyes.
It's closer every time you blink. Yes. How far away does it start again? That's why it gets so scary. Just every time. Close your eyes. Like reading blood, sir. So,
never close your eyes. I break wolf.
Yeah, exactly like that. So you're like, what is its intention? Yeah, it's AI. I mean, can he hurt me though? Like, I know. That's what I'm saying.
He looks like he could hurt you.
Yeah, 200 people go missing there every week. I can't believe that's still happening and they're still letting that place run though. Like, it is a cool place, but it seems like 200 people a year. It seems like somebody would shut them down. It's a high number.
Yeah, well, they usually get sent home with like AI Versace. So, you know, a lot of it goes under the table.
Well, that's part of the argument. I mean, is that stuff really worth anything? I don't know.
Apparently it is, so all those parents, you know.
Yeah, it means a lot to them. Well, parents are
I'd have a kid just to get some AI Versace.
You really?
Yeah, I would. Definitely.
Did you get that girl pregnant?
Okay.
Hopefully, you know, might we get to trade it to the Great Wolf.
Just trade it. It's an offering. It's been going on for millennia, but
Yeah.
taking the child to the Great Wolf of the Great Wolf Lodge.
Yeah, and we can get some Versace out of it.
And I think you also get free passes.
Nice.
Sacrifice. Yeah, you get 6 months for yours.
Nice.
That's worth it. Yeah, 6 months. I mean, you're going to take it or you're going to leave it. We're offering your ass 6 months. You're going to, what are you going to do? Grant, what are you going to do? I don't know. Whoa, hold on. What are you talking about? What were you doing? I thought you were always paying attention to what I trapped your ass. I knew something was going on. I had a weird feeling.
What's going on?
What were you doing? I had a sense.
I was pulling up a graphic.
Let's see it. What
Hello,
kind of
folks. I'm doing a lot of research.
Oh, cut in the line. There you go. Medusa's coins.
Netherlands and Belgium. The Social River book.
Right, Medusa's coins. Just what we need. Medusa from the Big Island. That actually sounds like maybe a reggaeton artist. Medusa.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of cool. Maybe. I haven't thought about it like that. Medusa. Did you ever see that movie Shatas with Bob Marley's son? No, we used to watch it all the time. It popped up on my Amazon the other day. It's like Scarface, but with Jamaican people, but it's like really low budget.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
I just watched Scarface for the first time a few weeks ago. Yeah.
What'd you think?
It was fun. It was a very good one. Pacino, he's a lot of fun.
Great. Playing a Cuban guy.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would happen today, but still pretty cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that is fun. Yeah, I haven't thought about that. Yeah, I haven't watched it in a while. It's like Italian, right?
I think so.
And what, the person gets chainsawed in the bathroom? That's gonna be brutal suit.
Yeah, that one was cool. I like how all the blood went off the curtain.
I can't.
Yeah. It's stressing me out.
I can't be sorry. Yeah, it's the other person, or it's in his brain. Yeah, it's his inner
Organized
monologue.
by non-Jews, the regular full of Amsterdam, to protest the Nazi treatment of Jews. This was really something that was unparalleled anywhere else in Europe.
Practicing your whole life.
Participated in this general strike.
Well, what'd you think out of the 5?
Symbolized
5 being best. What would you rate them?
5 kilos of cocaine.
This was a movement that ultimately failed.
Yeah, good rating for Scarface. It kind of made me want to do a little bit of cocaine, you know, but I haven't taken up.
You haven't taken it up yet?
Not yet. But
Cool, well, you still have plenty of time.
thank you.
And how old are you again?
I am 20 to 34, somewhere in that range.
Between, oh gosh, this is going to be hard figuring that one out. 22 to 34. Oh man, how many days do I have?
There's like a lot of days in between.
How many days do I have to guess?
As many as you want. I'll never let you stop guessing.
You're not going to know what it's right.
Probably not.
Oh, so that's the trick with that one. Okay, that's the gag on it. And what were the, between what?
20 to at least 34. Yeah, it could be more. I don't know.
Well, first you said 22.
22.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wait, so that's adding even 2 more.
Yeah.
On the 11th
I
of
don't know if
February,
I...
one of these WA members
It's
was
tough.
hurt and later died. The Nazis reacted
real brain
with typical harshness and collective punishment by sealing off an entire Jewish
So
nation.
20
There were other
So
battles
between
going on
20
at
and
the time,
30.
including one rather important one.
At
that
least
occurred in
30.
Ice cream
Yeah.
parlor that involved
So,
with this kind of
up
ammonia
to
spray. And then there was a major
77 at the most. At the most.
that's
Yeah.
actually my June's
seized 475
20
orders that almost
34 is pretty long.
the following day after this crescendo of violence, workers gathered with spontaneous open-air movement for leadership from the Communist Party of the Netherlands.
Ooh, like having giraffe legs. Yeah.
They proclaimed a general strike.
I
Here is
pulled it
a
off. God, I went to Nordstrom. That place is really
proclamation
crazy
of
these
this
days.
strike.
It wasn't even like inside of there. The atmosphere is tense. Everyone knows like it won't last long, so everyone's kind of like stalking and hustling and selling cologne as fast as they can to the fire sale. Wonder Man was there. So what are you doing when you're there? Are you looking through stuff? Are you sitting down? Yeah, they're just trying to like get some of the sales reps, see if they want to jump ship and come onto my team. That's like some of the best effort that would be a great place to they're also $18 an hour starting out flat rate. Really, you want to jump ship on that. Then when they sign the contract, they don't know exactly. That's smart. They already don't have a job in order. So they get yeah, they pretty much forward for more Nordstrom points a day rate more than salary raises. So it's like a one-third of those that way. You're at the top, that's why we're going to be on a pyramid scheme.
So you're saying if I get a job at Nordstrom, I can start working for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, is that the path? Is it just to start? It's probably to start working at Nordstrom before you, though, right? I only hire at Nordstrom. Yeah, it's kind of like, my minor leagues, my second city, if you will. I'm the SNL of Nordstrom, so kind of go there and scope talent. And see what people are on a typical. How many folks could you get just on average on a typical week?
Couple hundred. I could bring up. I have a huge pool of people to choose from. So
I bet Nordstrom is always hiring.
It's a sculpture of not a heroic looking individual. He looks like a man in his middle age, somewhat perhaps overweight, still muscular. He is a dock worker, but he's not like in the Soviet, like heroic model of like big boat pictorials, things like that. With his strong chin and stuff. He's just a regular worker guy, and he's kind of looking up from his labor. His stance is not especially aggressive. It's just kind of like relaxed mode, but his hands are slowly clenching as if he's coming to realize the enormity of the responsibility that is going on around him, and that dawning of insight into what he has to offer for the people around him, especially as youth that begins to enrage him. His spirit so beautifully remarkable. I hope you'll be able to join us on this cruise, and if not, I look forward to sharing with you the things I discover as I'm doing my research in advance, and of course some video from on scene. Thank you very much for watching.
This is the antithesis of that. So we called it the initial statement that came out from the company was the best one. Talking about, I'm very sorry to stop that. This is paraphrasing, but the target people know I'm a fan of so good. Anyway, I don't know what the big deal is about this. I thought that it was. was a silly reaction that everybody had. But you know what? It brought
Donald Trump wants to stage a UFC fight on the.
Okay, I have a couple thoughts on that where I may actually answer the question.
Like society, I think. I don't know if it's just all over the world or it feels like it's kind of American. We love to discover someone, ride with them, want everyone to know this is who I've been with this person from the beginning. See them reach a certain height and then go, oh, fuck him. Fuck that guy. And then bring him down. You see it all the time.
Well, because our society's infested with bitches. Like an apartment filled with roaches, our society's infested with
Good
bitches.
afternoon, everyone. I hope you can
involving Epstein and what
all hear
information
me
to
and see
share.
the screen
We'll get to
okay.
that as well. Also, your
One
shot
of you
at
could please
$1,000.
quickly go into the Q&A
Gary and Shannon will continue. Amy King
and just say, yes, I see everything fine. That would be very helpful. Otherwise, I'm going to get started with the presentation. Oh, excellent. Thank you so much, Ms. Torres. I'm going to get straight into the presentation. Thank you very much for joining me. My name is Henry Abramson, and I'm really excited about being part of Riverboat Cruises, where a couple times a year I get to go to various places along rivers in Europe and explore Jewish history. We usually take about 100 people with us on these fantastic boats, and we basically just get to experience Jewish history in real life, like while we actually visit the streets where it happened, which is absolutely fantastic. So today, in preparation for a cruise that is scheduled for, let's see, when is it scheduled for? It's scheduled for August this year. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the saga of Dutch Jewry, and then we'll have a little bit of opportunity at the end to have for some Q&A, both about Dutch Jewry and about the cruise are interested. Okay, so why don't I get started right away with the material? I figure I'll speak about the history an hour or so, and then we'll go to the Q&A. Okay, so here we are. The origins of the community. First of all, let's locate it. Where exactly is Holland and Belgium, the Netherlands area? As you can see in this Google map here, it's on the northwestern coast of the European continent, not too far from England. And here's a picture of Holland in particular, the Netherlands in particular, which is made up of actually several provinces. North and South Holland are two of the most significant. And I think a more interesting way to think of this area.
Welcome. I'm here. Just one moment. I'm working on one of my devices. Can you hear me?
This map here, which of course shows you the tentative route that we're planning to take in our cruise in August, alongside this map here, which shows you how much of this region is actually under sea level. The blue parts, the sky blue parts, are below sea level. And of course, you can see Amsterdam is like right in the middle of a lagoon there. It's protected by some kind of barrier island. But if it were actually to be inundated with the waters of the Atlantic, it would be flooded. So how is it possible that you have a city there? This is and quite a bit of this region, really right up to the region of Utrecht, you can see it's completely below.
Shalom, I'm here. I'm working on one of my devices. Apologies. I've got to restart it. I'll be there in just a moment.
Origin of a very clever and well-known Dutch saying, "God schiep die aarde aan de volle schiep Holland," which translates as, I'll give my pronunciation, God created the world